Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players, and that includes all-star players. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Stacy, your resident Survivor superfan and your resident Survivor Heroes versus Villains hater. I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts who probably like the season a lot more than I do, Derek Kubicek.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to get into this season. I'm excited to get into this, actually, I guess, specifically this post-merge. Yep. Ready to talk about the things that went right, things that went wrong, things I liked, and things that I really didn't like.
And Josh Wessler.
Hello there. I am excited to go as well. I think we're finally going to get a little dissension here in the ranks between us, and I'm excited to go over it.
So yeah, this is like my third time seeing this season. I still don't like it. I'm one of two Survivor fans I know who don't really care for this season. Derek, this is your first time seeing this season?
Indeed, yeah. And I think it's okay. It's safe to say now, I did know who the winner was. I won't say that until we get into the spoiler portion of the episode. But that didn't really change how I felt about watching the season. I do think that it was an extremely entertaining season at the very least. You know, even with some insider baseball knowledge, I certainly had a fun time as a viewer.
And Josh, you watched the season once, and so you are going to act as our memorability consultant. For those of you who don't know, Josh watched the premiere episode, the merge episode, and the finale, and he's kind of going to just see what he remembers along the way here.
Yeah, watched it. I went back and found it. It was September 2019, roughly, is when I watched it, and it was really interesting because I thought I knew some stuff of what happened, but by the time the season just progressed more and more throughout, I questioned more and more what I thought I might have known at the time, because I was, unlike Derek, pretty green on everything at that point.
So the whole point of this podcast is there's 41, almost 42 seasons of Survivors for season 42. By the time you're listening to this, season 42 will have aired. We were recording this 1 week before the start of season 42.
Get hyped!
Get hyped. There's 42-ish seasons of Survivor right now. If you don't have time to watch all of them, we're here to tell you which ones are must-watch, which ones should you make the time to make sure you watch. So, before we get into any spoilers, now that we're done with Heroes versus Villains, would you guys say this is must-watch Survivor?
I'm going to say yeah. I'll get more into this when we get into the spoiler section. For entertainment, I think that your casual fans out there will absolutely love seeing returning faces. There's a lot of drama out there for the person who likes reality TV for the drama. There's a lot of jockeying for position, and there's really a lot to learn if you ever plan on being a returning player for Survivor. So, love or hate the season, there is a lot of lessons to take away. A lot of just takeaways in general. This is a must-watch, this whole season.
I'll hop in here after Derek, just because I agree with Derek. That is must-watch Survivor. I found the season very entertaining when I watched it the first time. And we do get some firsts here, which we can touch on when they come up here later on in the podcast. But like Derek said, if you're a returning player, if you're a player playing with, or who knows, maybe even as a previous winner, being able to navigate those waters here in the post-merge, there's a lot that you can learn from it.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is must-watch Survivor just because of the lore. There's a lot of important stuff that happens in the season overall, and I think this season is universally beloved. I can count on two fingers the amount of people I've run into who don't care for the season. It's me and my dad. I think I would recommend it to everybody else just because everyone else seems to like this season. So you'll probably like it. I'm the weird one, and I know it. I find the season exhausting. All of the egos, it's just too much. I can't stand watching these people interact the entire post-merge. Once the first person in the post-merge goes home, I'm like checked out. And that's been true every time I watch it. I don't care who wins the season because I don't really like any of these people. And that's kind of important to me. I need to like somebody, and I don't. Then once we get to the final 9, I don't care. So I don't like this season, but everyone else does. So shout outs to my dad. You and I are the only ones on this page, but you know, it feels good to be one of two people on the planet who are right. So congrats, Dad. We're awesome. Everyone else sucks.
It's gonna be so refreshing being able to, you know, be with Josh on this, and Ryan's gonna try and yuck our yums, and probably many of your yums out there as well. But you know what? If you were just listening to all three of us agree with you all the time, this wouldn't be interesting media to consume.
I'm excited to have an anti-Ryan podcast here.
Yeah, no, this is, I think, probably definitely my hottest Survivor take. Like, the most controversial take I have is this.
And you know what? This is a microcosm of Survivor, which is a microcosm of society, because you're going to run into people who are on the island who think things completely opposite from you. So we'll see if we can work together and get through this podcast without too much strife, at least a working relationship.
Yeah, and much like someone else on the island, you can be completely delusional on how it's going.
Yeah, it's true. We'll see who the delusional one is. So spoiler alert for Survivor, Heroes versus the Villains. So starting right now, spoiler alert, go watch the season. There's a lot here, good or bad, up to you. There's a lot here. I'll give it that. There's a lot going on.
Form your own opinion.
Form your own opinion on this one for sure. You'll probably like it. Spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, Sandra wins for the second time.
Woohoo!
Shocker. Anyone who knows anything about Survivor, particularly when I came in, which was just a couple seasons before Game Changers, that was a really big deal when Game Changers rolled around, was the queen stays queen. And I finally got the iconic, I'm the queen, she wears a tiara, does the whole number, does the whole bit. And what was crazy was my perception of this season going in. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. It's the middle of the pandemic. I'm starting Micronesia. It's Parvati's returning season. I did not know that Parvati won Micronesia. I knew that Parvati was a winner. In my head canon, she won this season. So when Parvati won Micronesia, and in my head I knew, okay, Parvati doesn't win again for as much as I know. I don't know, but like I don't think she does. Oh, who's on this season? And then I remembered. Watching the season, though, I felt like Parvati should maybe win this. And so it was a really big lesson for me because, like, I think we can all agree now. Let me rewind just a little bit to structure this better. Season 19 and 20, back to back. I'm going to call that Survivor 301. I think that Survivor 101 is watching Richard Hatch in season 1 figure out the game, figure out the base level of that game understanding. Survivor 201 is when the immunity idol is first introduced and you start to understand the mechanics of twists within the game. Survivor 301 is being able to put this all together and understand how playing a strictly Machiavellian game, forgetting about 101 and just doing advanced techniques, will lose you the game every time. 19 and 20, the Russell Hand starter pack, you need to watch these seasons before you play Survivor because Rob said it best. Russell plays to make it to the end. He does not play to win. So this was a trip. This was an absolute trip to watch. And it was fun for me. And to Russell's credit, at the end when he said he played one time, I get where he was coming from. As inebriated as he was, he didn't get a chance to learn the lesson. But it really didn't feel like he learned a lesson anyway. No. So... anyway, I'm sorry, I rambled, but I just have thoughts.
Let's go over this cast. We have 5 heroes, 5 villains going into the merge. Quick refresher on these guys. Our 5 heroes, we have JT Thomas returning from Survivor Tocantins, Amanda Kimmel returning from Survivor China and Micronesia, Candace Woodcock returning from Survivor Cook Islands, Rupert Bonham returning from Survivor Pearl Islands and All-Stars, and Colby Donaldson returning from the Australian Outback and All-Stars. Our 5 villains, Daniel DiLorenzo returning from Survivor Panama, Jerry Manthe, returning from the Australian Outback and All-Stars. Russell Hantz, returning from Samoa. Parvati Shallow, returning from Cook Islands and Micronesia. And Sandra Diaz-Twine, returning from Pearl Islands. Those are our final 10. Our winner picks. Just a reminder on our winner picks. Derek, your original winner pick was?
I believe it was JT.
You're still in the game.
I am still in the game.
We'll see how long that lasts.
A long time.
Very long. Josh, your original winner pick was?
Boston Rob.
He is gone.
Yeah, he is.
Who'd you move on to?
JT as well.
All right, we'll see how that works out for you.
Very well.
And I, of course, picked Russell Hantz as my winner pick, so we'll see how that goes for me.
You're going to be busy switching from person to person.
Yep. You guys ready to jump into these things?
Please.
Yes, sir.
All right, episode 10, Going Down in Flames, also known as the last decent episode of this season.
Okay.
We're going to the merge. The villains all plan to say, except Sandra, of course, the villains are going to say, hey, remember when, JT, you gave me that idol, and now you're wondering why Parvati's still in the game? Well, it turns out Russell and Parvati stood at the same time and both played idols. So that's what happened, and Courtney went home on the revote. This is not a well-executed lie. Basically, he says, yeah, me and Parvati, we stood up at the exact same time and both played idols at the exact same time. That doesn't make sense. And then he also says, like, yeah, we weren't allowed to vote on the revote, so Courtney went home. That's not how the tie works in Survivor. Here's the proper lie. Yeah, I played my idol. Parvati took out her idol. Boom. Okay. Negated all votes. So we did a revote, and Courtney ended up going home. They just cut her because she was the expendable one. Boom, perfect lie. We're done. Moving on.
There's certainly a more logical way to set that lie up.
Rupert and JT completely buy this, though.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And this is mostly just because they're so sold on the women's alliance idea.
Jerry asks it best at her final tribal discussion where she's like, what does assuming do?
Yeah. Parvati is very pouty and kind of like isolates herself at the merge because everyone wants her out of the game. Okay, so what good is it going to be to go pout on the beach and be sad for yourself? Who are you, Rupert?
Are you pre-merge Rupert here? Come on.
And then she and Danielle start just digging into the heroes' food like crazy, pissing off all the heroes. So I have some thoughts about Parvati. She is widely considered to be one of the best social players of all time. That's kind of like her thing. And if you are in her clique, I agree. She plays an excellent social game if you are part of her crew. And that doesn't necessarily just mean alliance. It just means part of her social circle. When you aren't part of her social circle, I don't think she's got a very good social game. She pisses a lot of people off, and it doesn't seem like she cares. And I suspected this in Season 20 and 16, but hearing reports of what happened in Season 40 on the edge of extinction has basically all but confirmed this for me. Where if you are with her, great, you're in good. If you're not, she could be kind of nasty to you. So she is, what is the main Rachel McAdams character in Mean Girls?
Are you talking like Regina George?
Yeah, I think Parvati is the Regina George of Survivor. Where a lot of people like her, but a lot of people don't.
You know, that would be funny if you would have had the heroes versus villains cast do the whole thing where Jeff is like, how many people here have been personally victimized by Parvati Shallow?
Yes.
And then he raises his hand.
So this is a little inside baseball, but that's my thoughts on Parvati, where, you know, the person with the truly great social game will get everyone, even people who are not in their clique, to like them.
And I do think that modern Survivor players understand this lesson a lot better.
Sure.
It might be partially because they've seen these seasons. And honestly, going back and thinking about this moment now where she isolates herself while all the heroes are still on the beach, I can see why Parvati doesn't end up winning despite maybe playing the most well-rounded game and the most impressive game.
She doesn't connect with any of the heroes except maybe Candace.
Yeah.
So that's not great for Parvati.
So I can see it. And I had honestly completely forgotten about that by the time that I had gotten to finale. So that's a really interesting point.
Sandra goes to Rupert and it's like, hey, Russell's lying. There's no women's alliance. He's the ringleader. And Rupert's like, oh, crap. I think we've made a mistake.
I think we've made a huge mistake.
And he tries to tell the remaining heroes, like, we can't trust Russell. He's a villain for a reason. And none of them get on board.
And none of us have also seen him play.
It's true. But, like, Rupert's the voice of reason on the heroes'
Who would have
trial.
thought?
And I'll say this, I told you guys this off podcast, but, you know, the one thing I did like more on this rewatch than I have in the past is I actually kind of enjoyed Rupert in the post-merge, at least. He was a sad sack in the pre-merge, but I really enjoyed Rupert in the post-merge. He was, like, the most surprising. He's my favorite part of the post-merge. I was like, you know what? Rupert's playing decent.
Well, and I mean, I feel like he's had that each of his seasons. Like, he definitely goes in, it just comes in waves where it's just, he's very tolerable and then very intolerable. And it's kind of the points when you get sick of him the most, that's like, is it worth it? I don't know.
It was fun seeing him play from the bottom. It really was.
I don't know that Rupert would have been able to play so well from the bottom if Russell hadn't been at the top being Russell. I mean, granted, any Survivor contestant can be put into any type of similar situation, and so the fact that Rupert was able to find some success despite their situation was a lot of fun. And I will say that pre-merge Rupert and post-merge Rupert were like two sides of different coins completely, because one of those is like a really tarnished penny and then the other one is like a shiny silver dollar.
Shiny quarter, let's be honest.
We'll call it a shiny quarter. Rupert, I was in his boots the entire time that he was there in the post-merge because he's trying to explain to the heroes, and then once he realizes that the ship is sinking, he's just like, all right, we're going to have some fun before we go.
He's the sane man.
He is.
And that's alarming.
That's extremely alarming.
Rupert is, in fact, the Jim of the post-merge, and I did enjoy it while we had him.
The heroes eventually decide, all right, we're going to tell Russell we're voting for Parvati, and we're going to vote for somebody else. Great plan. Excellent plan. Perfect. You know, none of them are really believe that Russell's against them, but Rupert has convinced them to try this. Great. Immunity challenge, Danielle's going to win. Amanda and Parvati talk. And as far as I know, Amanda and Parvati had a bit of a falling out post-Micronesia. No one really knows what happens, but they weren't great friends like they used to be. But, you know, they still have a relationship of some kind, so they talk.
And in a game for $1 million, you do.
You'll take anything.
You talk.
So Amanda tells Parvati to play her idol because she wants Parvati to burn it. Get it out of the game. And Parvati's like, oh, Amanda's lying to me. Got it. They're not coming for me. Instant brilliant read of the situation. And to make matters even funnier, Russell Hantz is going to hand over the idol JT gave him to Parvati because he thinks Parvati's going home, so he's going to save her. Like the generous god he is. Tribal Council. And this Tribal Council is pretty epic.
This, I think, is one of the most iconic moves we've seen through 20 seasons.
I agree. Parvati plays both of her idols, but not on herself. She does a real Russell Hantz, but with 2 idols. She plays her idols on Jerry and Sandra just to cover the bases. It's 5 votes for Jerry. None of them count. 5 votes for JT. Womp. Womp. It's a big old bummer. Not 100% sure why Sandra didn't flip. Maybe because the heroes didn't, talk to her. Like, the stupid idiots they are.
I mean, yeah, but it was so confusing because she directly talked to Rupert, but she was specifically making it a point to not have that connection be known.
No, yeah. I like this because if it forces a tie, Sandra can flip on the revote.
Sure.
So I think she's saying, I'm not breaking ranks until I know that I'm okay. She's like, okay, we're not okay. Clearly we're not okay. So it is almost like she hedged her bet.
Yeah.
In a very intelligent play.
Sure. Yeah, if they ended up actually going for Parvati here and it was a 5-5 tie, Parvati probably could have been going home then because Sandra, like you said, likely could have flipped.
Now, what's interesting from Sandra's perspective, though, I'm not so sure that she should be wanting to go with the heroes because among the people in the hero tribe, does she have the game, the resume, the personality that could go up against 2 of the remaining hero tribe and win? So who do you think that she could beat? Candace, I think, is one, but maybe one more hero.
So every season I do this. I do a little ranking of everybody. I skip the first person in the merge. JT's not on this list because, in my opinion, it's just you have to get through the merge episode and almost ignore that. That's like a separate phase of the game. So JT's not included on this list. I'm just including the final 9. Who can beat who? Top of the list is Sandra. She beats everybody. Smokes everybody. Want to know why? There's exactly 2 people on this cast who don't like her, including the jury. That is Coach and that is Russell. Everyone else loves Sandra. So she beats everybody.
But how do we know this?
General interviews, listening to people talk since the game.
So this is inside baseball. We usually...
This has always been inside baseball.
But, I understand that. But we try to go off of edit, at least a little bit, when we're talking about whether something is good or bad. Insofar as the edit is concerned,
sure.
and I will speak strictly from the edit, Sandra probably shouldn't have made this move. Knowing that everybody loves her, then she's kind of free to do what she wants.
Sandra just needs to make it to the end.
And that's why that's such a beautiful game, right? Because you have options. The way the edit has been fed to us, I would say it's probably bad for her to do this, and she should probably be trying to get to the end with Russell and maybe Jerry.
Yeah, when it comes to these rankings, I take a little bit of everything into account just to try and figure out what is this puzzle.
Right. We need to do some retroactive analysis in order to understand how to get there in the first place.
Well, I mean, and if you say that everyone likes her, that is something that people can see in the game. Sure. It's not like it comes out after the game. It's like, oh, we didn't know that the entire time.
It's something you need to be on the lookout for. Who does everybody like? Well, guess what? They are probably going to beat you. So here's the list of everybody. This is how it goes. Sandra, Jerry, Parvati, Amanda, Danielle, Candace, Rupert, Colby, Russell. So it's basically the girls and then the 3 guys. That is the order. So Russell, Colby, and Rupert needed to go to the end together. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on this one. That needed to be the final 3 for those 3 to have a shot.
Interesting.
The girls destroy them.
And for the record, I think Rupert mops up with Colby and Russell in that final 3.
Yes, Rupert destroys them both. Colby and Russell can't win this game. Neither of them can win.
Even if they go against, Candace?
Candace beats them because who doesn't like Candace? Rupert, Colby, JT.
But if she makes it to the end, that's plenty of time for her to piss off other people.
Sure. But all the girls like her. She has a relationship with Parvati. Amanda might not like her either because she kind of screwed Amanda over. So there's a big gap between Danielle.
There's room for the list to change.
Danielle and Candace are in separate tiers. I know Danielle's right above Candace, but there's a tier there. Danielle destroys Candace. We'll put it that way. But yeah, Candace I think beats Rupert, Colby, and Russell because Colby didn't do anything. Everyone hates Russell and people don't like Rupert.
So I know we spent a lot of time talking about what was right or wrong there, but
yeah, let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Josh, who do you have for best?
I had shocker Parvati. Yeah, she didn't really do a whole lot at camp when they merged. She messed around with the food, but none of that matters because she correctly played, one of 2 idols, but the other one was a freebie from someone else. So does that really matter? No.
Well, I mean, and you could say that she burned that idol from someone that she doesn't really trust, and that takes power out of Russell's hands. And we'll just throw in the fact that she had that beautiful read of Amanda, and I think that this is Amanda will say her biggest mistake in the game is a different one. I think this is her biggest mistake, is not selling a convincing enough lie to Parvati, or even having this conversation in the first place and not trying to do something with a little less margin for error. So I think Parvati's the best for being able to read that.
Parvati's easy best. How about worse, Josh?
I'm going to give it to Amanda because that conversation did not need to even happen. There was no reason. Your plan going in was that you were going to not vote for Parvati because it was the obvious thing to do, and this was the thing that triggered her to play both idols, not for herself. So I think that the conversation just shouldn't have happened on Amanda's front.
If someone tells you, especially someone who's not in your lines, if someone who tells you to play the idol, don't play the idol.
And does it poorly. Like, this is the problem that I have with Amanda, is that in really like serious situations like this, I feel like she flounders.
Yeah, wait.
She's great in all other aspects of the game, but this is a critical point where she just doesn't handle it well.
She does not come off as a convincing person, almost ever. That's her biggest flaw. It's her only one, I would say. But it's time and time again. You got to fix this, Amanda. So best of Parvati, worst Amanda, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't get a chance to say yet. I do agree that Amanda, my girl, I'm sorry, Amanda. You know, if you've listened to these podcasts, I love you.
Because she looks like your wife.
It all wrapped together. That was not a good move with Parvati.
Yeah, tell your wife she needs to get better at Survivor.
Does Amanda play again?
No, we don't see Amanda again.
I would like to see her play again, too. We're not even to her boot episode yet, but we'll talk about that, I guess, in a second.
So JT gets knocked out here, and we didn't say this yet, but I think everyone made the right move, and it just so happens that Idols won out. The heroes were smart in saying one thing and doing something else, going after Jerry, and Parvati had the best read of the situation overall. But I think everyone made the right move at Tribal. Yeah. Leading up to Tribal, there was problems. But JT's going to get bounced out here. He will play again. We want to see it.
Yeah, I'll watch it. He's a winner, so he gets a pass for his really bad move. And to his credit, he played a completely different game, which means that I am not bored. He didn't play well, but I am certainly not bored.
And here's the best thing, because I agree, I would like to see him play again. Perfect reasoning is that since he played a completely different game, and since he wasn't super successful in this game, he shouldn't be a huge target going into whatever season he plays next.
It's true. Yeah, bring JT back. I love JT. He's one of my favorite winners, one of my favorite players. Bring him back. He's fun. Love JT. Derek and Josh both lose their winner picks.
Womp womp.
Derek, since this was your original winner pick, you can go first. Who did you switch to?
Yeah, at this point, it looks like it's 5 strong villains against 4 heroes. I think that the incentive for Sandra to flip based on the edit and who she can beat, it doesn't make a lot of sense for her to go anymore, especially now that she's down in the numbers, or she would be down in the numbers in a flip. I switched to Parvati because I feel like she is in a really good spot on the tribe where Danielle doesn't want to vote her out, and I think that based on the edit, she can beat Sandra. She can certainly beat Russell. And Jerry is like her, kind of riding coattails, but I think that since Parvati has had to mitigate that target for longer and such a bigger and more threatening target, that she'll get the benefit of the doubt with the jury at the end. So I switched to Parvati.
Josh?
So I'm going to take out all of the heroes and not pick any of them just because the villains have the upper hand right now, and just going to go with probability and say that a villain will win the game. I'm not going to go for someone like Jerry or Russell or Danielle, which leaves only 2 people, Sandra and Parvati. So at this point, Parvati just made a giant move with 2 idols that paints a giant target on her back, one that has been there the entire game. People have said throughout the entire pre-merge that she is this huge threat that they need to take out. So I don't think that she'll be able to make it to the end. So almost by default, I'm going to go with Sandra.
Well, congrats, guys. None of us are going to need to pick another winner pick for the rest of the season.
Woohoo!
Huzzah!
We've done it.
And we hung out with different people, which is pretty funny. That's unusual.
We'll see who wins out.
Yeah.
And I would like to put in a disclaimer here that when I was watching this for the first time, I knew that Sandra won a second time, but I didn't know if she was the only one who won twice. So I was going into this, and basically the entire pre-merge, I'm like, does Parvati win twice as well? And then Sandra comes back at a future season and wins again at some point? Because I didn't know really any of the like mid-20s, low to mid-20s seasons, any of the results of those. So throughout this entire post-merge, I was jumping back and forth like, I'm pretty sure it's either Sandra or Parvati that's going to win this game, but I have no idea who it's going to be.
Sure. Episode 11, Jumping Ship. Russell confronts Parvati about hiding that idol that she found from him.
Russell, master of the social game and social graces.
Very pissed. For whatever reason, Danielle decides to get involved and jumps in to defend Parvati. Dude, let him fight. Sounds like a tall glass and not your problem.
Yep.
The only thing I can think of, and yes, it's a bad move, but Probst says at the reunion show, this is living with Russell, and they've been with him for how long? It's got to be. It's got to be grating.
Sure.
I've already admitted that it's a bad move. I'm just saying I get it.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's easy.
Survivor's not easy.
Yeah, no one was saying this was easy.
There are many aspects of the game that are difficult. Something as small and obvious as this is one of those things.
Yeah. Russell's a little nervous. He thinks Sandra could flip, so he wants to bring in one of the heroes, and that would be Candace. I doubt he knows this, but she has mutinied before. Highly doubt he'd seen that season. So he goes to work on Candace. Amanda, Colby, and Danielle win reward, and they get to go to a museum and watch a screening of Treasure Island and get some popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
And Danielle and Amanda don't look like they're having any fun at all because they're so focused on finding a hidden immunity idol clue. Colby's fine.
But this is a great sequence because they're trying to do it secretively the entire time.
And it is really weird to see Survivor go indoors. It's just kind of jarring. But Danielle ends up finding a clue hidden in the popcorn. Amanda sees it. And it ends up being basically a cat fight over a clue. And Amanda's got it. Danielle's trying to get it back. And eventually what we are shown is Colby's like, Amanda, give it back. Danielle got it. And Danielle gets the clue back.
Meanwhile, Colby has no idea what's actually going on.
Colby doesn't know. What's a hidden immunity idol? I suspect, I don't have any proof of this, that production was like, by the rules of Survivor, Danielle found it. It was in her possession. Can't take it. Give it, Colby, tell Amanda to give it back. So production doesn't have to get involved on screen. I'm guessing that's what happened. I don't know that for sure. But here's what Amanda should have done.
And this was something that Derek brought up, and I'm super excited to share.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, in Survivor, you might not be able to steal an idol from somebody unless you have the Kip advantage. Bullcrap twist. But what you can do is go through their bag, and if they have an idol, you can look at it. And if they have a clue, you can read it. An advantage, you can read it. Okay, Danielle, this is your clue, but you were careless with it. You didn't pick it up off the floor. You could have been like, oh, yes, I have a clue, and then picked it up and stuffed it in your bra, and then Amanda wouldn't be able to touch it.
Yeah.
But you didn't. Amanda got the clue. Amanda, unroll it, read the clue, give it back.
You're
there
taller
you go.
than Danielle. Just keep it out of reach and read it.
Short person, go away for a second. Mommy's reading. And then give it back. That's the move, and I bet production would have let her get away with that.
I'm sure. But the trick here is you need to be quicker than production. If you can be quicker than production's going to be kind of pissed about it. But who cares? You're trying to win the game.
What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? And maybe they'll like it.
Ask for forgiveness.
Read it real fast so you know where the clue is, where the idol is, and then give it back. If the production makes you, but now you know.
Now you know. At least you have something.
So if anyone's ever in this position, be a speed reader.
And I just want to give Amanda props again. For the third time this season, she was the only one who caught somebody else finding something. Caught someone with their hand in the cookie jar.
Tom, JT, now Danielle.
This girl is always in the right place with her head in the game.
Always watching Wazowski.
Always watching Kimmel. Always watching DiLorenzo. So I love Amanda. She's almost atoned for that one mistake from last episode, which I still think is the worst one. But anyway, I'm done.
So Danielle, she goes back. She tells the clues to the villains. They go off hunting for it, and Russell finds it. Heroes, follow them.
Yep, I have no idea where they were or what they were doing.
Well, that, and also, Danielle, why share it with everybody?
Danielle, why share with everybody? Heroes, why didn't you follow them?
Yeah, gotta be tailing. I mean,
especially Amanda, because she knows.
Yep. I'm almost done grading Colby on his game because he's not playing.
Yeah, non-existent.
He's enjoying a movie.
Rupert's got 2 busted toes, so maybe it's hard for him to get up and get into the jungle following people around, especially when Russell just might run off like a Russell, terrier.
Yep.
A Jack Russell Terrier. And then maybe Amanda was out there, but there were 5 people to chase. But it's really hard to tell.
Russell finds the idol. He ends up showing it to Candace to convince her to flip. He puts the fear of God into her.
Real Russell move.
It's a real Russell move. It does work.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't work. Sandra wants to take out Russell because she's just sick of him.
And she still sees this is now 5-4. 5-5 was what it was, but I will go with you guys this time because Russell is awful and I want him gone.
And there's some logic there. The heroes are probably less likely to stab her in the back.
Yep.
Also, she's played with Rupert.
Yep. And I get the Rupert Sandra tie. Absolutely.
She's like, hey, heroes, let's take out Russell. It'll be 5-4. Great idea. And Jerry wins immunity. We can do this. Let's go. So that's the plan. Candace reveals everything to Russell. And the heroes are like, okay, fine. We can't take out Russell. We'll take out Parvati instead because Russell's going to play his idol. Great. Sandra's like, Candace, what the hell are you doing? What is going on? Why can't we get on the same page? And Candace just like shuts down because she can't do basic math. And she looks like she's about to, have a meltdown. She's like, just vote. Just vote for Amanda. Just vote for Amanda. It's fine. And it's like, Candace, what are you doing?
And I want to actually chime in first with a bit of an aside. Parvati is like, wait. Amanda feels way too comfortable here. So, like, this is one of the reasons that Russell and company were suspecting that Sandra might be flipping, because Parvati says Amanda never quits. And she is not scrambling right now. Why is she not scrambling? They're down in the numbers. Another reason to love my girl Amanda, by the way, when you get Parvati saying that she's a great player and she never quits. Back to Sandra and Candace on the beach. I think this is the most important conversation through 20 seasons of Survivor.
Unfortunately.
And it goes to show, one, that Candace is a horrible player, but Sandra, she uses this conversation to propel herself all the way to the end. And Russell tries to come up and get in on this conversation, and Sandra says, buddy, disappear, evaporate for a while. I don't want you here while I'm talking to Candace. I'm talking to Candace. Why are you always here? You're a gremlin.
Buzz off.
Yeah, buzz off. You're a gremlin. Go away. And Russell does. And she gets that private time with Candace and decides not to flip. I think this is the single most important conversation through 20 seasons of Survivor. This one right here that we actually see on camera.
Yeah, and it drives me nuts because Candace is a moron and makes the wrong move, and it's so frustrating to watch. Why did we bring her back? I didn't even want her on the season, and now she's making the season actively worse. Candace is like the main reason I hate. No, Candace isn't the main reason I hate this season, but from a strategic standpoint, Candace is the main reason I hate this season. There's lots of personalities I dislike more than Candace on this season, but this move is so stupid and frustrating, and we're gonna invite Candace to play again. What the hell? This is so stupid and frustrating, and I'm pissed.
In 2 seasons, Candace has now mutinied twice.
She's the worst. She's actually the worst. I can't stand Candace. I really can't.
I don't have such strong feelings about it, and Josh, I don't think that you do either. But
I can't stand Candace.
Thank you, Josh.
I don't feel just as heartily about it as Ryan does, but yeah, she's definitely in a bottom tier of contestants.
Put Natalie Bolton on the season instead of Candace.
I would have taken Natalie over Candace. There is no doubt about that.
So since Candace can't do math, we're going to go to Tribal Council. Russell's going to antagonize Sandra at Tribal Council for some reason.
Say she can't win.
Do you not want her to vote with you, dude? What are you doing?
It's not like he's daring her. He's testing her loyalty is what he thinks he's doing.
Well, it's because he's frustrated because he wasn't in control of the situation. And if he's not in control of everything,
he freaks out. He does play his idol, just in case. I can't really blame him for this.
Oh, I think I probably would have if I were him.
You can't trust Sandra.
No.
Can't trust Candace. It's going to be 6 votes for Amanda, 3 votes for Parvati. This is the wrong move. It should have been Parvati.
Yep.
Candace screwed up. Period. That's it.
I agree. And it is sad. So Amanda's gone. Amanda through 20 seasons. She's my favorite player. And I think it's mostly because of the amount of time that I've been able to spend watching her play and how much I revere her moves. I do think Tina would be up there if she'd played a third time and not been voted out first. But Tina and Amanda through 20 seasons are my 2 favorite. And I think that they're similar in a lot of ways. I do think that if Candace doesn't flip here, Amanda has a real shot to go to the end and win this thing. And given the size of the target on Parvati's back and how the villains are in control and Sandra extending an olive branch, the heroes should have absolutely all gone for Parvati. Yes, Candace, that means you. And for Sandra, I can understand where she feels like she's 5 on a villain's tribe of 5 right now, and it's probably a good opportunity for her to flip. With a Rupert tie.
Derek, who do you got for best player?
For the best player, I have Sandra. I love that conversation on the beach with Candace. She showed that she had the intelligence to not flip. And she showed that she's willing to stand up to a bully by giving herself that time to have that conversation with Candace uninterrupted by Russell, the antagonizer. So I have Sandra.
I gave it to Jerry. She won immunity. She took out Amanda. I don't care. Do whatever you want, Josh. I don't care.
So I don't know what Jerry did in this episode other than immunity, but I put down Jerry.
Oh, okay.
So now, disclaimer again, I did record these notes. Holy crap! Almost 3 years. Well, okay, 2.5 years ago. So I don't really remember a lot of my reasonings behind these, but it's interesting to note that me and Ryan are still on the same page.
I'll take it.
Sorry, Derek.
I'm hater of the season and Survivor idiot. I'm okay with losing to that democracy.
Wow, Survivor idiot, Josh Wilson.
Yeah, that's wow. I did not expect that.
2.5 years ago, Josh.
If someone on this podcast was going to get the title of Survivor idiot, I wouldn't give it to Josh.
You know,
Would you give it to yourself?
Nope.
this is also the Josh who thought that Russell should have won Samoa. So,
I thought Russell should have won Samoa.
based on the edit, yeah, I get it.
What? Why is that such a bad thing?
Just let me have my horrible arguments.
No, you don't deserve them.
I want them. I keep them.
And to defend myself, in case anyone who's listening to this didn't listen to our season 19, I am not in the camp that I thought that Russell was robbed. I was just saying that I would have voted for him.
Based on the edit, yeah. Let's go back to our awards. Worst player of the episode, Derek, who you got?
Oh, worst player of the episode is easily Rupert. I'm just kidding. It's Candace, and it's not close.
I'm going to take over right now. Candace is the worst player of the episode. She didn't follow the villains on the idol hunt. She told Russell everything. She fell for all of his crap. She can't do basic math. She voted out Amanda, and she's just generally terrible at Survivor and an annoying, stupid person.
And when Sandra pulled her aside and was like, why aren't we taking out Russell? And had like a real heart-to-heart conversation with her, she ignored it. Like, Candace had so many opportunities to turn back, and she didn't. Ugh. And now my favorite player is gone.
Josh, what do you think?
It's kind of weird that we're not like talking about how they why were they targeting Russell here?
Because Sandra wanted to take out Russell.
But why?
Because she hates Russell.
That's a bad move, though. Because
She can win against anybody, though.
I mean,
And he's a wild card.
and
I would
plus-
like to have a larger break there in between people, and instead of having it be super close. But whatever.
The other thing is the heroes, they're just looking for a lifeline. If Sandra's going to offer the lifeline and that lifeline is, hey, give me Russell.
I'm more saying from Sandra's perspective,
Sure.
like, why are you doing this? Anyways, yeah, I had Candace written down as well.
Episode 12, a sinking ship. Rupert tries to antagonize Russell into making a mistake. It doesn't really work, but it does show Russell's a jackass. One thing to note is we're going to vote out two people in the same episode, so it's like 2 mini episodes shoved together real quick. Immunity challenge. Everyone is going to eventually give up their spots. It's one of those endurance challenges. You got to hold your wrist over your head and make sure the bucket of water doesn't fall on you. Everybody ends up stepping down for food except for Parvati and Rupert. Colby and Candace, why?
I'm done grading Colby.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm done grading Colby on this. Candace, I don't understand at all. I think she was trying to show her new alliance, quote unquote, that she trusts them enough to step down and vote out a Rupert or a Colby, whoever doesn't win. And it just obviously doesn't pay off. If I were her, though, being a fresh flip, I would let that cement cure a little bit before I go jumping off for peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, not worth it.
We talked about it during Fallen Comrades, which I actually paid some attention to.
Parvati ends up winning, and Jeff decides to read an idol clue out loud for everybody for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Idol search, Sandra ends up finding it. Rupert, he puts a rock in his pocket and walks back into camp to make people think he's got an idol. And we get confessional with Russell going like, oh, I know exactly what an idol looks like in someone's pocket. And Rupert has one. It's like...
Oh, Russell.
I can't believe this worked. Rupert's strategic mastermind.
And this is the post-merge Rupert that was so fun. He's like, I'm not rolling over. He's got to get crafty. He's got to be a little bit of a pirate again.
Yep.
And I think that this is, even though he's in a bad spot, I feel like Rupert might even be having more fun in the post-merge than he had in the pre-merge when he had a freshly broken foot and was useless on a tribe of like really big heroic personalities.
Well, put it this way. Candace is going to go home here, and I know he enjoyed that.
Oh, America enjoyed that.
So the villains and Candace, they have decided they're going to split their votes between Rupert and Colby, just in case of an idol. Jerry actually wants Candace to be the one to go instead because she doesn't trust Candace. Fair.
Yeah, I get it. You can't trust a mutineer. The deepest circles of hell.
And everybody's really on board to vote out Candace except Russell, but he's going to go along with it just because like everyone else wants to do it. Okay.
One of the few accolades I can give Russell for this entire post-merge.
But Colby and Rupert figured this out. Like, maybe they're going to split on Candace. Like, that could be something they do, especially if they think you have an idol, Rupert. Maybe they'll do that, and they don't think Colby's a threat. So they're like, why don't we just throw votes on Candace, and maybe we can like just send her home on a split. Guess what happens? Tribal Council, it's 5 votes for Candace, 3 votes for Rupert. LOL.
How did we get here? Tell me 2 episodes ago that this was going to happen, and I want to believe you.
I think the most irritating, like, I loved this moment, and I like hooped and hollered at my TV when it happened. But then during her like vote out confessional thing, she was like, well, I took a really big risky move and I didn't make it. Well, yeah, jumping off of a bridge without a parachute is a pretty bad plan.
It's a giant risk. She's right.
And there's no reward at the bottom. Like, I don't.
There's a difference between like
she didn't learn
diving into a lot of risk for like a decent chance of reward. It might not work out, but whatever. Between that and like a 1% chance of it working out.
So for best player, I had Rupert. He antagonized Russell. He did the fake idol with a rock. I got a rock. And he and Keen Colby piled the votes on Candace to knock her out of the game. Hilarious. Rupert's my best.
Yeah, and I know that Colby is the one who sort of suggested, hey, let's toss our votes on Candace. We didn't spend a ton of time on it, but I love that Rupert was like, I'm going to do the old Russell move, and I'm going to piss off Russell. And he knew exactly which buttons to press. Russell, you're a horrible person. Probably the worst person I've ever met in my life. And it works. So even though he's on the bottom, basically everything Rupert does this episode is correct, except actually find the idol.
Yep.
But you know what? I would have taken this any day.
Yep, I said Rupert. Pretty easy.
For worst player, and I want to reiterate, remind everybody that if you go home during the episode, you can't win either best or worst player. So I can't give this to Candace.
Honorable mention.
Dishonorable mention, I wish I could, but I can't. I'm not going to give out a worst player this episode because I thought everyone played correctly. I don't fault the villains for wanting to, obviously they got to split. And, it doesn't really matter who you split on. It just one of them is going home. Russell didn't really want Candace to go home, but everyone else did. So he acquiesced to their request. And then, obviously, Rupert and Colby did great at the end. So, really, I can't give out a worst.
I will, and I gave it to Jerry. And this is maybe based on a bit of edit and what we get. Jerry, ever since flipping to go with Parvati and Russell and Danielle, really has been quiet. She hasn't done anything, and so based on the edit, she's not going to win. And because she's so quiet, again, I'm thinking, okay, you need people with you that you can beat. By switching on Candace, someone who just betrayed the entire hero tribe, who presumably are going to all end up on the jury, is going to lose all 5 of their votes. I'm thinking Jerry should want to go to the end with Candace and use Candace as a number to maybe get rid of a Parvati down the road, get rid of a Russell down the road. Whereas, like, there are going to be a lot of heroes on the jury. You want to get rid of Rupert and Colby now so that the heroes have to vote for a villain at the end and then just try to be the most likable villain. So I did not like Jerry switching to Candace.
But here's the thing. Jerry can beat everybody except Sandra.
That's inside baseball, and I can't go off of that. You understand.
Okay, so Josh, the tiebreaker, Jerry can beat everybody except Sandra.
Well, I wrote down Russell as my worst.
Probably for buying into the whole thing.
I'm assuming it had partly to do with him being resistant with what the vote would end up being. And then maybe there was some sort of reaction with Rupert with that interaction. So that's probably why I gave it to him.
Okay. But you got a tiebreak because neither of us had Russell.
Well, so my vote doesn't count?
Nope, you didn't watch the episode.
Oh, no.
We established this last time.
Yeah, we did. We established this.
And you know what? We got Josh's perspective for informational purposes only, not for underwriting purposes.
Yeah.
Jerry or nobody.
Well, it sounded like, Derek, that you were basically saying Jerry just because of inaction.
No, I'm saying Jerry because of action. It was Jerry's idea to switch to Candace. I said that she needs to take out Colby and Rupert now and then worry about eating the villains tribe later. I think that, like, eating Candace now, who just flipped to the villain side, every jury member who was a hero, who will be a hero, is not going to vote for Candace anymore. So she needs Candace in order to win. So I feel like Jerry really decreased her odds of winning by voting out Candace, based on the edit, and I understand that's subjective.
And the plan was to vote out Rupert, not Candace.
Yeah, and I would assume that she would be able to beat Candace in the end.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, the plan was to vote out Rupert, but in case of an idol, the backup was Candace. So that was the plan.
I will remind you, Josh, you don't like giving it out to nobody.
I don't.
But sometimes it's what it needs to happen.
Fine, I'll go with Jerry.
Thank you. I deserve it.
By Like you rose just slightly off of the ground enough to go with Jerry.
I don't see your logic, Josh. At least Ryan's I understand because he understands the social pecking order. But from my perspective, Jerry was the clear worst based on the edit.
Well, mine was Russell.
Candace is gonna play again.
Hooray!
Do we want to see it?
No, I don't. It was really funny TV to watch you do this in season 13. But to watch you do this on an all-star season, I'm assuming if you come back, it's going to be in some capacity on an all-star season of sorts or a returner season. I don't need it. And honestly, this is the second time in a row that you didn't really get much of an edit. So you're not even like being compelling or entertaining in the meanwhile. You just do something to blow up everybody's games halfway through. And then I guess that makes you worthy of a returning. No, I don't want to see Candace.
I have absolutely no desire to watch her again. And I've watched every single season, and I don't even remember her playing again.
So, I've asked this question a lot. This person is going to come back and play again. Do we want to see it? I've asked that question quite a few times over this podcast, 20 seasons in. I can say safely, up to this point, out of every time I've asked that question, this is the person I want to come back the least.
Very interesting.
I'm so sick of her. I want her. Go away.
Be gone.
There's people I have hated more, but those people haven't come back necessarily. This is the least interesting, most annoying, game-ruining person, and she's coming back. Why?
For whatever it's worth, we're really dogging on Candace's in-game stuff. I have been privy to a lot of Candace's tweets, and she seems like a lovely person. I just don't want her on Survivor anymore.
And that could definitely be true. I don't know. I'm talking about the character, not the person. I don't know her.
I understand.
She sucks to watch on TV. Don't bring her back. It's time travel and not have her on again. Cool? Worth it. All right, let's get into the second half of this episode.
If Ryan gets a time machine, this is what he does.
This is one and only thing.
Mark Burnett. No, it's a bad idea.
Stop it.
So the second half of the episode, Russell is very pissed that Candace was voted out, not Colby or Rupert. And so while I gave him praise for going along with it in the first half of this episode, in the second half, this is very bad. Don't get angry. Just be like, man, darn it. But he gets all pissed. He ends up winning immunity in this episode, and so now the plan, okay, we're going to take out Rupert for good this time.
And by the way, we need to say one of the reasons that he was mad is he still thinks that Rupert has an idol.
Yep.
And he thinks that they just outsmarted the villains and saved his idol. He's like, I told you, now he has an idol. And Chandler's
How did we
like,
get outsmarted by Rupert?
How embarrassing.
So that was pretty funny.
So Rupert's going home, except Russell wants to split up Parvati and Danielle because they are the tightest pair in this game, and he wants the tightest pair to be himself and Parvati. So he tries to pit them against each other, and he's like, but you can't go talk to the other person. Like, Danielle's coming to get you, Parvati, but you can't talk to her and confirm this. She's like, I'm gonna talk to her.
Like, okay.
I feel like a child just went up to like one of their parents and was like, hey, parent 1 said that you're the worst, and then went up to parent 2 and was, hey, parent 2 said that you're the worst. And it's like, oh, well, we should just believe you and hate each other forever, right? We might as well just go our separate ways now. Yeah. No. When parent 1 and parent 2 have a fight, they get together and they talk about it. And they talk about it. They talk about their problem child here.
He's playing like he's with everyone from season 19.
Yep. And he's not.
Which we've heard him acknowledge.
Yes. Danielle and Parvati immediately compare notes. I'm like, what is he doing? And they get Sandra on board. They're like, what is he doing? And they don't want to vote him out because they can all beat him.
I'm starting to realize this, which we went over.
This is something beautiful that we never got in season 19. I think it might have been Sandra specifically. It's like, well, we don't want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like, everybody can beat Russell. Everyone knows he's a goat. Everyone knows that he's drawing dead. Yeah. And then, thank you so much, editors, for giving us this time. You should have given it to us in 19 a little bit more than you did, rather than just hype us up for 20.
A lot more than they did.
So, and then Russell goes to Rupert and Colby like, hey, we should get rid of, like, Danielle. How about that? And they're like, okay, cool. Sounds good, man.
Sure. Remembering we're like 24 hours removed from like
the big Rupert Russell fight.
Russell being like, Rupert, you're a dumbass, and Russell being like, you are human scum. You are algae on the bottom of my shoe.
Russell is the worst person I've ever met in my life. Yes, I'll work with you, Russell. No, I'm not hating. That's great.
This is great Survivor play. Both times Rupert is 100% correct here, because the first time he's just trying to kick up drama, and the second time he's just like, yeah, I'll take a lifeline.
Whatever, man.
That leaves Jerry as the swing vote. and both sides are fighting for her. Russell's like, Jerry, if you don't go with me, they're going to come for you next. Rupert will go tonight, and you're next.
And keep in mind, this is what Russell was saying to everybody, but it's true with somebody, and like that's the beauty of it, but like he needs to be more, I don't know, correct on his read. Like you can't say that to 3 people and then have one person believe it and expect them to give you credit for that strategic move at the end. Because he said this to Parvati and he said this to Danielle.
Yep. So it's a little misleading in the edit, but what I think actually happened here is Russell and Jerry eventually agreed to go after Rupert until we get to tribal council. Russell is like doubling down on his lie that Parvati and Danielle are, being scheming and are really super close and all this stuff. And Danielle has a meltdown, starts crying, and she starts going off on how close she and Parvati are. And you guys are close. And she's like trying to make a point that Parvati and I are closer than you guys think. And like, we would never betray each other. And it's like, oh, you guys are really close, huh? And Russell like whispers to Jerry, like, Danielle, let's do it.
And for the record, if Parvati didn't win immunity here, Russell was thinking about going after Parvati, wasn't he?
But I think he would have done Danielle just because he wanted Parvati to be in his pocket.
Sure.
So I think it was going to be Rupert tonight until Danielle screws this one up. I think this is one of those rare actual live tribals, especially in like the early mid seasons.
You almost never get this.
Yeah. If nothing else, Jerry's vote, I believe, was swung last minute. I'm sure Russell, like if he didn't think that Jerry was going to do it, he would have voted with the majority. But I do think that Jerry's mind was made up when it was confirmed that Danielle and Parvati are closer than people know.
Oh, what does that mean? Yikes.
Uh-oh.
So it's going to be 4 votes for Danielle, 3 votes for Rupert. This is not a bad move. You want, splitting up the tightest pair in the game is not a bad move, especially since the other 2 people are Rupert and Colby. Colby is a non-factor, and Rupert you can still get rid of. So I don't mind the move to split these 2 up. It's the execution on Russell's part that is so terrible.
The other thing that I like from Parvati, she said we need 3 villains at the end because the heroes are going to vote for a hero no matter what. And I don't think that she's entirely wrong in her assessment. So her saying, like, we need to keep after Colby and Rupert. I know that in theory we have time, but you don't really have a lot of it anymore, and neither of them have immunity. Pick Rupert because he's playing harder and vote for him. I think that Parvati was actually 100% right for the most number of people. Villains still outnumber heroes, and I still think that heroes are a big X factor on the jury between all the heroes who will be there and all of the villains who are going to be betrayed at the end.
But let's say let Rupert and Colby get to the end. There's only 3 heroes in the jury. It's not enough to win.
Sure, but at that point, I feel like I don't know if that would split the hero jury votes and allow a villain to win. I don't think that was ever going to happen. It's a weird whataboutism or what if for this particular portion because the villains are so in control. We're not quite to Vanuatu levels of an implosion yet. We're on our way. We're not there yet.
For best player, I'm going to give it to Rupert. He was willing to work with Russell. He got rid of Danielle. Great name for Rupert.
I agree. It's Rupert because he was able to come back immediately after going against Russell in the first half of the episode and really come around and actually work to save himself and Colby, keep their hopes alive in the game for as long as he can. It's Rupert.
Past Josh had Rupert as well.
Nice. For worst player, I had Parvati. She's way too close to Danielle. And she did not make Russell or Jerry feel secure in the end. Those 2, for Russell's ego, you can talk about Russell's ego all day long. The fact of the matter is he did not feel secure. He's a player in this game. You need to try and make as many people feel secure, especially if they're in your alliance. So my worst player is Parvati.
And I actually had Russell as my worst player because I think that by burning bridges left and right, going after his own alliances for things that did happen, things that might have happened, things that he's wrong about, that he's absolutely certain of, like Rupert having an idol, for example, and going after his closest alliance, he needs to worry about making it to the end with his attitude right now. And I don't know. I think just based on social game alone, I'm going to give it to Russell. I think he was awful.
Well, here's the thing. He needs to go to the end with Colby and Rupert. That is his best chance to be the last villain standing. He has no chance, but that is his best chance.
Which he can still do.
He can still do. And if he had voted out Rupert tonight, he couldn't do that anymore. And now he's even in a worse spot than he already was.
I also think, though, the fact that we had Sandra and Parvati and Danielle come together for the first time and say Russell can't win this game, that is something that happened at this episode, and it happened as a result of him going to 3 different villains and saying, you're next, you're next, you're next, listen to me, or you're next. He went full authoritarian despite being, like, the least effectual player left in the game. Or second, Colby is number 1 for least effectual.
But he made this happen. You can't call him ineffectual.
I'll call him ineffectual within his own alliance then.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that's the wrong word.
And the reason that I don't want to give it to Parvati is because I think that even if you end up on the wrong side of the vote once, for someone like a villain on a jury full of people who have been betrayed, for her to have to overcome something once and remain loyal, she can say, I did try to remain loyal. I wasn't always just riding Russell's coattails. And you know what? I did lose one vote, but it was for my closest ally, which I know that a lot of you guys would sink to stay with your allies. So that's why I didn't want to give it to Parvati. I don't think that this is something that would hurt her position in the game.
She just lost her closest ally. It hurt her position in the game.
I said what I said.
I don't agree with everything that Derek is saying, except for the fact that I think that Russell was the worst player of the episode. Because I did say that in the past, that I thought he was the worst player of the episode, and I did write down that he can no longer win the game. And I think that happens in this episode. If you take it one step, like one episode before this, I think there was still a long shot that he could win the game, but it was still possible. It just feels like this is the point of no return, basically, for him.
Maybe. I think it was before this, but maybe.
Realistically,
this seems like the clincher.
Realistically, I'll admit, like, from Ryan's perspective and all of the insight that he has about the season as the whole, retrospectively and understanding the social dynamics, yeah, Russell hasn't been able to win this game since the merge, I'm sure. But what I get on our watch through, this is where it is. And I agree with you on that.
Episode 13, we're going to continue with this theme, loose lips sink ships. Just lots of ships.
What is this, Pearl Islands?
Parvati plays nice with Russell so they can come back together and focus on taking out the heroes, because in Parvati's mind, Rupert and Colby need to go kind of how you're seeing things, Derek. If they get to the end, they'll win. I don't think that's true, but that's how Parvati sees it. And it's good that she's making nest with Russell, because you need to keep that relationship good. Oh, Russell triples down on his line. He's like, yeah, Danielle was coming after you.
Why?
All right.
Commit to it, I guess.
Commit to it.
You can't say that he doesn't have dedication.
Yeah.
For he's dedicated to whatever he decides he's going to dedicate to.
Yeah. We get the Loved Ones Reward Challenge. Jerry ends up winning. She brings Parvati and Sandra with. Really pisses off Russell. And this is just like, don't win this. Don't win the family visit. Throw it. Throw this challenge.
The only person here who can win this is Parvati, in my opinion, because she's already got a huge target on her back. And I'm not saying try to win it. I'm just saying if she were to win it, it would do the least harm.
No, I disagree, because, again, unless she picks Russell and Jerry, she's going to piss off Sandra, maybe. You can only pick two people. Parvati wins if she pisses off people. The only people who can win this and not piss off anybody are Rupert and Colby.
Sure. I'll respect that.
Because they'll take the other one and one of the villains. The other three villains can't be mad.
You're already at the bottom.
Yeah. If you're if you're next, win the Loved Ones visit.
Who knows? Because you might be able to sway a vote.
Sure. Yeah. If you're on the bottom, go for it. If you're on top, do not win this. Stay far away. Hope you get picked to go with.
Also, it was hilarious watching Colby freak out during this challenge.
Damn it, Reed.
He hasn't given a crap about anything this entire season, and all of a sudden he is wigging out about a bucket water throwing challenge.
I want to spend time with you, Reed, so I can yell at you some more. So Russell's pissed off. He plots with Colby and Rupert to take out Parvati and Jerry as vengeance. Yeah, do it, Russell. This is your best move. But that night, Jerry and Russell make up about what happened. And the reason why they have a chance to talk and make up, patch things up, is because Rupert's keeping everyone awake, just like working on the fire and chopping logs in the middle of the night. It's the most Rupert thing to ever happen.
Of course.
I've never seen them do this before, but he just kept picking up a giant rock and dropping it on the sticks, and Jerry's pissed.
Jerry does not like Rupert. Established. They played together in All-Stars. They were in the same tribe. They were together in the worst shelter of all time was ever built.
Oh,
Jerry does not like Rupert.
That's the old hole on the beach one, right?
Oh, that flooded.
He dug the whole hole himself.
Womp womp. So Parvati wins immunity and potentially saves herself. She could have been going home here.
Yep.
So good for Parvati. So the villain's plan is to take out Rupert now. Sandra goes to Rupert and's like, hey, I'd like to see Russell go still. And Rupert immediately tells Russell this. And Russell immediately confronts Sandra. And it's like, are you with me or against me? I'm against you, Russell.
Okay, then.
And then Sandra and Parvati make fun of Russell to his face.
This
hilarious.
I want to say that this is bad gameplay.
It's bad gameplay. It is.
Like, it's for as much credit as you can give Sandra just because she's at the top and, like, everyone likes her, like, that doesn't mean you're invincible.
No.
One thing, though, we do say, like, fighting with Russell to his face like that, not good gameplay. but giggling about it with Parvati afterwards, great gameplay.
So the one thing that this does for Sandra, obviously this turns Russell against her a little bit more, but I think everyone else really loves it.
And that's where it's like, I don't recommend this move, but like if you're out on the island and you have Russell Hands 2.0 and you want to do this, go for it. Because everyone remember the end of season 19 when it was Russell and Natalie and Mick left. And I was like, why is Russell being a prick to them? Is this how he always was? And then Jeff confirms this is how he always was. And they were letting him walk all over them. Sandra? Parvati?
No.
They both, they're winners.
Yeah.
Russell's not, he doesn't know it yet, but he's a loser.
Yep.
They turn this on him basically and basically make a mockery of his gameplay.
Yeah.
That's the whole post-merge of Heroes versus Villains is like, let's make a mockery of Russell, which is fine. I don't think it's very fun to watch, but it's fine.
I think it's entertaining.
I think these latter episodes, it's so fun to watch, particularly Russell and Parvati butt heads and jockey for position where it's like, I am not going to look weak in front of all of these other people to you. And obviously you don't want to look weak to like relative to me in front of all these other people. And they do this in front of the jury. They do it in front of the people who are left. It's just constantly them jockeying for position. And I was always waiting for, Parvati to like, back off a little bit. And she never does.
Nope.
And Sandra never does. And good for, oh my gosh, I was in love with it. And whereas like Ryan finds this sort of thing exhausting.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reveling in this because I was like, Russell, you're a prick. And they're standing up to him.
And the point where because Derek did kind of mention this a little bit off mic, I really noticed it after that in the final four tribal when they were basically saying like who was carrying who or like who was protecting who, and neither one wanted to let the other one give them the last word because that almost just like admits that the other person had control over you.
Right. And Parvati on that because Russell's like, I carried you, and Parvati's like,
we carried each other.
We saved each other. As if Russell has forgotten the fact that like Parvati did that amazing double idol play, which even if Russell still had his idol, he wouldn't have been able to do. Nope. He'd have played it on Parvati, and they could have very well lost.
Yep.
So Russell's a douche.
Yep.
And Parvati's just like, I'm not going to let you bully me. You don't get this.
I think all three of those people are extremely arrogant, and it's exhausting to watch a bunch of arrogant people argue. I find it exhausting. If people are arguing, I typically want to root for somebody, but I find all of them so arrogant, and all of them really buy into their own hype that it just is like, ugh, I don't want to watch.
I think Russell is extremely arrogant. The others have a little bit of that, but it's definitely not the same tier.
No.
It's tolerable at least.
I see it as confidence.
And yeah, it's closer to being confident than arrogant.
I think it's closer to arrogance than confidence. It's definitely closer to confidence than Russell.
But you almost need that sometimes in Survivor. Like it goes too far, as we see with some people. But you do need that to have confidence in your game. Otherwise, you might end up being someone like Amanda.
Sure. I think they go too far to arrogance. Granted, the final three, you got to vote for one of them. But if somebody else was there, I would have been like, I'm voting for the fourth person.
What if you vote for Colby?
I can't vote for Colby because Colby did nothing. But Jerry's there. I'd be like, I might vote for Jerry just because I'm so sick of these other three. I might vote for Danielle just because I'm so sick of those other ones. Amanda, Rupert, not Candace. not Candace. But like the rest of them, I'm just like, I just get exhausted watching these egotistical, arrogant people fight all the time. And, I have some people could say like, Ryan, you're a little bit egotistical, maybe a little bit arrogant. I'm like, you know what? That's fair. I play it up a little bit just to be funny on the podcast. I like to think I'm not quite as arrogant as I come off sometimes.
Depends on the moment.
I like to think, from my perspective, I think I lean more towards confidence, and then I play into the arrogance when I think it'll be funny. I think self-awareness is important. And I do think Sandra and Parvati definitely have that more than Russell, but I think all three of them go so far towards arrogance, closer to arrogance than confidence, that it's just like, this isn't fun to watch anymore. That's why I don't like this.
Yeah, keeping it short and sweet. The reason I like it is that we don't see this in Survivor all the time.
Thank God.
And that's what makes it like kind of a treat when it does happen, because you're right, Sandra has a big personality. She did not do well with handling Johnny Fairplay, but Johnny Fairplay is also kind of like Russell Hands in this like, I'm gonna just try and stir it up. And when you have a Sandra to counter that, I enjoy that every now and again. You've got Pearl Islands as your favorite season so far.
Palau.
Or is your number two?
Pearl Islands is my number 2, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got Pearl Island's way up there, despite these big egos clashing for that entire season. Sandra, Rupert, Johnny Fairplay.
Yes, but they weren't as bad because they were first timers.
And I understand that. I can appreciate that. But like I was saying, this does not happen very often in Survivor. And I was just reveling. I'm like, I'm having a really good time watching this tribe implode, and I just want to see where this goes. I think I know where it ends up, but I want to be here for every stop along the way.
And that is a good point, comparing Johnny Fairplay to Russell. If you are the person who is going head-to-head with the person everyone hates, Johnny Fairplay and Russell, and both times that was Sandra, that endears you to everyone else who hates the Johnny Fairplay, hates the Russell. Sandra gets votes. If you're the person who's going up against the demon, the devil, well, that'll win you some favor. So I see why Sandra got the votes. Tribal Council, it's the last night an idol can be played, so Sandra's going to play her idol. It's going to be 4 votes for Rupert, 2 votes for Sandra. Rupert was the right person to go home, but we got here the wrong way, and here's how. This should have been 3 votes for Sandra or Jerry, and 3 votes for Rupert. The guys should stuck together, the girls should have stuck together. And then Sandra plays her idol, and so idol's Rupert out of the game. Russell made the wrong move. Russell went along with the villains to take out Rupert. Now that is a bad move for Russell. So the way it should have gone is an idol play knocks Rupert out of the game. And so we got the right person, but the wrong path.
I agree with that 90%. And I think the 10% that I can't agree with you is the part where Russell loses to everybody except Colby and Rupert.
Oh, he still loses.
I get that. But like, can Russell really make a wrong move then at that point? That doesn't keep him from being my worst player if I'm going to jump the gun. But yeah, I agree that Rupert was the right person to go here for the most number of people, regardless of how we get there. So I'll have to trust you and say that your navigation is correct.
Who do you got for best player?
I have Sandra, because I think when it all shakes out, she was able to play her idol, and there was talk of voting her out. So even though it ended up not being needed, she did have something sniffed out, and she didn't waste the idol necessarily, and she still voted with the numbers. And I do think that voting Rupert out for her is about as good of a move as she can make at this point if Parvati's not available.
Sad Parvati. She made nice with Russell after Tribal Council. She won immunity, saving herself potentially, and she eliminated Rupert. Great move for her. So I had Parvati.
I did go with Sandra in the past, and I think I would stick with that.
I do like Parvati. She was my honorable mention.
Derek, worst player?
It's Russell. It's Russell, and I'll let you say your piece because you say it's the wrong move, but like literally nobody is scared of him, and everyone who's left in the game is talking mad crap about him, mad dogging him from behind his back
and to his face,
and he deserves it, and he has absolutely no respect, and we're finally seeing it.
So I had Russell. He got into that confrontation with Sandra, which is bad. He voted out Rupert, who he needed to go to the end with to have his best shot. Again, probably 0 votes, but his best chance is against Rupert and Colby. So he already could not win the game, and now he can even more not win the game.
For the record, I put down Jerry just because of the family visit.
Sure.
Okay.
But the reason why, I'll give her some credit. She did make up with Russell. They got over that hill within the episode. So, but yes, I agree with you.
But we are officially giving it to Russell.
Correct. Rupert is going to play again. Do we want to see it? All right, Derek, let's go. I'm really excited to hear this one.
Did you know that he played again?
I've seen him play again. He plays.
Oh, okay.
He plays in Blood vs. Water.
Yep.
With Laura.
Which is also where Candace comes back.
Yes, exactly. Season 27.
Right. So Candace and Rupert get to play again.
I assume that was the one, but I'm just like I can't fully remember honestly because that was the first season that I watched. The second season that I watched.
First season Derek watched.
So if I remember right, back in season 7, I was so fed up with Rupert by the time he got voted out, and I think I fell on the side that he is a big player. So like if he does come back, I'll have to accept it, but I don't really want to see him. And then I also remember saying in Season 8, he played a much different game, and I very much liked that more subdued Rupert better. But in this era of Survivor with the twists, I didn't know how well he was going to fare. He very much feels like someone who would be an old school player. And through the pre-merge, I would have told you, no, I don't want to see him again. Sad sack Rupert, so much for my dreams. But then he put the rock in his pocket and pissed off Russell and tried to be the sane man on this heroes tribe full of way too big of egos. And you know what? He's redeemed himself enough. You get a 4th time back. You played differently enough, and I got to see Rupert do well in at the time was a modern Survivor, that modern version of Survivor. So I'll take him, but let's make it something like not an all-star season. Let's just bring him back for a different kind of season in the future. That's what I want to see from Rupert. I would be happy to see him at this point. I've come back around.
I feel like we've gotten every version of Rupert that we can get at this point, through the highs and the lows. So I think that it'd be good to just close the book on Rupert in Survivor. There's maybe more that we could see from him, like if he keeps progressing his game, I guess, this way, but I feel like it's not going to advance enough to be anything different that I need to see.
I will say, if there weren't a bunch of other 3-time players at this point, I'd be like, I don't really want Russell to be like the one and only 4th-time player. But now that we're at the point in Survivor where there might be a bunch of 4-time returners, I think that he can be one of them.
You need to make a very strong case in order for me to want you to come back a 4th time.
Sure.
And see, I'm less picky on that. Those things, there's like plenty of people like, bring him back every season. Abby Maria, let's go every season. Reem, let's go every season. You know, there's some people like, I don't care, they're awesome. Jonathan Penner, bring him back every season. Rupert, if you'd told me before we started the Heroes vs. Villains podcast episodes, I would have said, hell no, I'm so done with Rupert, blah, 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 blah. He won me over this time. He was fun. He was by far my favorite part about rewatching the post-merge. I had a lot of fun watching Rupert play from the bottom, so bring him back. Screw it. I'm in.
Also, his closing confessional was something to the effect of, maybe it's not my destiny to win Survivor, but that's okay. I don't need to win Survivor to know I'm a winner.
Oh, Rupert. I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed Rupert this season.
So I guess I'll change my dreams.
Finale, anything could happen. Russell is pissed at Sandra for not telling him about that she had an idol. And he thinks Parvati knew about it, so he's pissed at her. And Sandra's like, you had an idol and you didn't tell me twice. So get bent. Fair. Russell's plan at this point, he wants to go to the end with Jerry and Sandra. The 2 top tier players left in this game, the 2 most likely to win. That's a good plan, Russell. But he thinks they didn't do anything besides be likable.
I mean, okay, so again, like, this is almost going back to the same thing that we talked about in 19, where it completely changes based on that person's perception. Yep. So how can we grade him when he just has a completely different perception than what reality is?
Have better perceptions.
Yes. That's the easy answer.
It is, because you need to study Survivor and figure out how people think. And then you can more accurately judge people's perceptions. For example, if you are likable, you will probably win. And Russell doesn't get it. So change your perception.
But we did say that, okay, so like easy now. So like if you're going into 43, 44 or whatever, you can operate under that thinking. But for Russell, in this time when it really hasn't been thought of as much that way, and he hasn't been able to actually see the results of 19 yet, it's still hard to fault him too much for it.
I get it is like half marks because he didn't get to see the results of the first one play out. What's funny though, with the benefit of hindsight, Russell's going to tell on himself in the reunion show. It's a hilarious time to bring this up. He's like, I'm not the problem. The game of Survivor is the problem.
Yeah.
So, like...
Big red flags there.
And that's kind of the moment when the Survivor community turned on Russell. Was like, the game is flawed. It's like, okay, we're done. That's kind of... I mean, he's still got, like, his cult of followers, but general audience, like, okay, we're done with Russell.
Well, and even when you have the validation of all stars, and when you see everyone say the same thing, it's just like... okay, maybe I was wrong.
Parvati wins immunity. She was possibly going to go, so she saved herself.
Again.
Colby gives a speech where he pretends to be done. Like, I know I'm going home. But then he tries to get Russell to vote out Sandra because she's physically the weakest person in the game, and then they can vote out Parvati next time. Okay. And Sandra does need to go because she'll beat everybody. So there's also that. Good points. Tribal Council, 4 votes for Colby, 1 for Sandra. Honestly, I think this should have been Jerry, because both Jerry and Sandra need to go for any of the others to have a chance. And Jerry can win challenges, Sandra can't. So you gotta get rid of both of them. Jerry's the bigger physical threat. Get rid of Jerry. Jerry should have been the vote here.
And my perspective is all heroes need to disappear for anyone else to have a chance just because of the composition of the jury and the betrayals happening on the villain side of the house. So for that reason, I'm happy, or I'm not happy, but I'm at peace at the fact that the right move was Colby based on what I was seeing.
So I did, like Ryan said earlier in this podcast, I did watch the finale, and from the way that it came across from the players, I think that it was the correct move to get rid of Colby just because it sounded like if a hero, the only hero left, made it to the end, that they could easily mop up the hero votes. Now, I don't know if that's true, but given just that line of thinking, based on what they were saying, I feel like just knock out that wild card and work from there.
It's almost like we have to like trust them. And I'm not saying that to disparage Ryan at all. I'm just saying we get what we get, especially when that's all that I'm allowed to consume.
Yeah. In reality, if he made it to the end, he got 0 votes. That could have been the case as well.
He would have gotten zero. Colby would not have gotten 0 votes. I think he probably would have gotten. He probably would have gotten Rupert's. Probably would have gotten JT's. Maybe Amanda's. Not Candace. Candace and Colby didn't like each other, so I think that's maybe 3. Let's give him 3.
And that's enough to me. That's enough of a wild card. Now you're probably not going to get any of the villains, but that's enough of a wild card to just take that out. Take the tribal aspect out of it, especially when it's the theme of the season.
Everyone else sweeps him.
Depending on though, Courtney and Coach might respect the fact that he's
a guy.
He's a guy and a big physical specimen, and Courtney might respect the fact that he's not Russell or Parvati. If Russell and Parvati go to the end with
Depending on who
Colby,
he goes with,
yeah. So there is a world where I think that based on the edit, Colby wins.
It's a long shot.
It's a long shot, but I think Parvati's best chance to win the game at this point is to go to the end with Colby and Russell. She doesn't win against Sandra. She doesn't win against Jerry. She needs Colby.
You don't think she beats Jerry?
No, everyone likes Jerry. There's a lot of people who... So here's the thing with Parvati is all of the heroes are like not quite live with Parvati, but like they're just pissed that she was with Russell this whole time. They didn't get to see in the pre-merge that she had no option. So I don't really blame Parvati for that.
And I got thoughts for this.
Yeah, she had no chance to show that off. And that's not her fault. That's just the game mechanics. So Parvati had that big disadvantage on her. So no, she would lose to Jerry just because the heroes don't have that. They don't get to see the whole thing. The villains did. And notice, none of the heroes are going to vote for Parvati, but 3 of the villains will. It's unfortunate for Parvati, but it is the reality of the situation that Jerry beats her. Because everyone likes Jerry. Jerry's pissed nobody off since the pre-merge.
Not something that we got from the edit, but I can see it. And I can believe that at this point, talking it through.
Because think about it this way. Coach is in love with Jerry. Courtney likes Jerry. GT and Jerry didn't really get much time to interact.
But would Courtney vote for Jerry after Jerry betrayed the Boston Rob Alliance and basically sank her game?
Unless Sandra was in there.
Sure.
Candace got along with Jerry. Danielle and Parvati were tight with Jerry. Russell likes Jerry a lot. Rupert does not like Jerry. And Colby, we didn't really see this, but Colby and Jerry, they used to not like each other, but they made up, I guess, on the island, and they're good friends. So everybody except Rupert likes Jerry.
So there's no reason not to vote for Jerry for 8 people. That's a big deal on this season.
Jerry, Parvati, Russell, final 3. I would not be surprised if Jerry wins like 6-2-1.
Almost the same
or
split.
7-2-0. Yeah.
I would almost expect the same split where the villains left on from the pre-merge who saw what happened with Parvati and Russell. They understand that Parvati played a better game, but then if merge on...
Except Coach votes for Jerry.
Sure.
Coach would switch.
Well, sure. I can see that. I can see that.
So, Josh, who'd you for best player of the final 5?
Now, this is who I outlined from a couple years ago, but I did say Parvati here just because it seemed like she was the main target and she ended up winning immunity.
Okay. I gave mine to Sandra. She ended up making the right move for her game. She survived this when she shouldn't have. Or, she was just one of the people who shouldn't have survived. But she also had more control over this vote than Jerry did, it seemed like. So that's why I gave it to Sandra instead of Jerry.
And in the first part of the finale, we do get a conversation between Parvati and Russell a little bit about how a lot of people like Sandra, and Russell's sleeping on that fact. And it kind of bothers Parvati. There's going to be 2 conversations about this. One on the beach, I believe, and then one in the jungle later on when they're talking about like Final 4 stuff, Final 3. But I also had Parvati, and it was for a couple reasons. I think she's jockeying really well against Russell in front of the tribe, in front of the jury, and she won immunity and saved herself. And again, from my perspective, Colby still needed to go here for any villain to have a chance.
For worst player, Josh, who do you got?
I didn't end up giving one out. And like I said, that was me a couple years ago. Now... It's tough. It's tough because I do still like eliminating the wildcard aspect of it and getting the last hero out. So I think that it was the right move for everybody.
See, I have Russell. I didn't like how he fought with Sandra and Parvati at the beginning of the episode, and then he voted for Colby, which is terrible for Russell. Like going against Colby is his best shot because Colby, you can say Colby did nothing. He just sat there like a bump on the log. That's Russell's best argument he's got.
That's what Russell said about Natalie, too.
I suppose.
Yep. and Sandra. We've already established that Russell can't win. I had Russell as the worst. Basically throw out like the voting aspect of what Ryan said. He still went back and was like, Sandra, you didn't tell me about your idol. Why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? Why would you do something like that? Meanwhile, he's this giant hypocrite and everybody sees it. And that was enough where it's like, okay, well... no one's going to out-petty you, huh, Russell?
Okay, so Final Four, Fallen Comrades, Derek's favorite part.
This was actually the most fun one. This is the one I enjoyed the most, or unenjoyed the least.
It's a high bar.
It helps when, you're really familiar with all these people.
And that's exactly why I had more fun with it, because everyone had something a little bit more unique and fun to say. And then, of course, Russell got to say a bunch of absolutely unaware, stupid things.
Look at how great I am for taking down the great Boston Rob.
Hey, you're either with me or against me. Hurrah, rah, rah.
Well,
We saw
I
how
showed
that turned
him.
out for you. Okay, Russell. So, the least bad Fallen Comrades, in my opinion. And you know what? That is a merit badge coming from me.
Russell ends up winning the final immunity challenge in a blindfold maze, super close. It came down to a second between him, Jerry, and Parvati.
Yeah, this was an amazing challenge.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of NASCAR or F1 racing, you will like this immunity challenge, because this was a photo finish to that checkered flag.
Like, where are we going here?
And so, really, for Russell, he's deciding between Jerry and Parvati about who should go. And Parvati's like, you should also not discount Sandra, because Russell's convinced Sandra has no shot. She'll get Courtney's vote, and that's it. Parvati's like, she could win. Parvati's right.
Well, and the thing that I didn't understand about it is that one of his main lines of thinking is that he said, "You've already won the game, so why would people want to give you the million again?" Does he forget who he's also planning to sit next to with Parvati? Do you think that they're going to think the same thing about both of them?
Go back to All-Stars, and yes. In All-Stars, yeah, that would absolutely be a factor. I think Russell's a better chance of winning All-Stars because he's not a winner. But now we're in Heroes versus Villains. Hallelujah, we're not in All-Stars mentality anymore. That's the one positive thing I'll say about Heroes versus Villains is that wasn't really a factor in the end game.
And one thing that even happened in All-Stars is that even though no one who wasn't a winner wanted to allow a winner to get to the end, everyone who talked about it in All-Stars was like, if they make it that far, they kind of deserve it.
Yeah.
That's on us for letting them get there. Well, congratulations. Now 50% of the people left to make up a final three are winners. And there's only 4 of you. There's going to be a winner in the end.
Tribal Council is going to be 3 votes for Jerry, 1 vote for Parvati. This should have been Sandra. And the numbers speak for themselves on that one.
From my perspective, I think it probably should have been Parvati. And I understand going retroactively speaking, I do think that Parvati has played the best and most complete game. From the jury's perspective, if you really want to try and get into their heads and who are they going to vote for, who are they not going to vote for, I still think that Parvati has played the best game, but no one else can appreciate it, and that's something that maybe I'm falling a little bit short on with Jerry and Sandra. But again, that's with the benefit of hindsight. It's really hard for me to say to leave Parvati in the game when literally everyone's goal has been to get her out the entire time, and they have been unable to do so. The only person who hasn't been after Parvati this entire time has been Sandra, who didn't get Russell out the entire time. So the fact that, hey, let's finally, to steal Coach's phrasing, slay the dragon and get Parvati out, I think is in everybody's best interest.
Derek, you're forgetting the social game again.
I'm not forgetting the social game because they can't edit the social game. That's still the big problem. The social game is something that you can really analyze in hindsight, but it's really hard to grade in the moment. That's why you said, based on the edit, Russell should have won 19. So,
to be fair, we weren't given anything with that one. We were given stuff this time.
I understand that. And that's why I'm not saying Russell does not have a chance. But Jerry is severely under-edited, and Sandra has come alive, and so I know that we need to worry about it. But I still feel like Parvati, she's won 3 immunity challenges, was supposed to go home twice, and has played an impressive game from the beginning all the way through to the end. So from that standpoint, I say that Parvati, as a viewer, a first-time viewer, should have been going home at 4.
I can back this up with numbers. You're wrong.
Using retrospective numbers.
I've done this entire time.
Yeah, I understand.
This is nothing new. I don't know why you're getting mad at me about this now, because I've been doing this in season 1.
It's because you're grading me harshly for getting it wrong when you can use retrospective analysis and all I have is where I'm at. That's why it doesn't work.
You can use retrospective analysis now that we finished watching the season with what we've seen from the season.
Okay, I think I need to jump in here.
Yeah, please.
I stand with Derek here.
Oh my God.
Because we assign these after the episode. We don't assign them after we watch the entire season. I put down Parvati as my best of this episode. We're getting way ahead here. But maybe I would change it now. But just because that's the case, knowing what happens after the season, I don't think that you should change the decision that you made after that episode. So yes, in retrospect, we know that Sandra had the better social game.
Which I would agree with.
But me personally, when I was watching this in 2019, I was saying go for Parvati because she's the clear threat to win this game. I didn't think that Sandra was going to win. I thought it was going to be Parvati, and I thought Parvati should have been the one to go home because of that. So I get what Derek is saying in that aspect.
Sure, and you can absolutely say that, like when you're done with the episode or whatever, like right after the vote, you can absolutely say that. But then when you get to the end of the season, like here's what I thought at the time, but here's the correct answer.
Yes, you can have both.
Yeah, you can absolutely have both.
So much like Russell says that, the game of Survivor is flawed, me assigning who was the correct person to go home is a flawed game for me sometimes.
So maybe the better thing for you, Derek, to say is, at the time, I did not think that this was the correct move, but now seeing it after the fact, knowing more about the inner workings of what was happening within the game, it was not the right move.
I believe I said something to that effect, and I'm not going to deny that. Obviously, Sandra was the one who needed to go home here, and obviously Jerry was the one who would need to go home. Maybe the previous vote, and maybe Colby is the best idea at the end. But at the time, with the information I had in front of me, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Sure, and that's totally fair. Yeah, I guess my point in the end was like, I can back up my point with votes, and again, I have hindsight.
Yes.
On my side. I definitely have the advantage just because I've seen it more.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm not trying to criticize. I am trying to criticize you. I'm trying to criticize you, but it's like I am kind of putting you in an unfair spot. I will admit that.
As long as we acknowledge that sometimes criticizing Derek means you're criticizing the edit.
Yes.
And because I might have some takes that you don't like with respect to, edit or not edit, but sometimes there's just no way for me to know.
Sure.
This, on a season filled with all-stars and Parvati is still there and everyone has wanted her gone since day one, why would you let her stay? So that's that perspective.
That's the biggest problem with Survivor is the edit could sometimes not, it's 1% of 1%.
Lead you down a different path.
Yeah, totally.
You can't edit the social game so well.
You can't edit that well. So Tribal Council 3 votes for Jerry, 1 for Parvati. Best player, Josh, who did you have for the Final Four?
I had Parvati just because at this time, I thought that she was going to be the person who was going to win if she made it to the end. I said that at the Merge episode, if you remember, all the way at the beginning of this podcast, that if she made it to the end, she was going to win, which is why I wasn't going to pick her to be my winner pick, because I thought that there's no chance she was going to make it that far. Somehow she's not going home, so that's why I went with her as the best player.
It's exactly why I went with Sandra.
For the exact same line of thinking, but in that moment, that was my reasoning.
I had Parvati. So I agree with Josh on this one.
Worst player?
I had Russell. It really doesn't matter at this point because he can't win the game, so does it really matter? No, but I'm going to give it to him anyways. Even though he won immunity, he wasn't at risk of going home.
I had Parvati as worst player because at Tribal Council, I didn't mention this. We talked about it earlier where Parvati had said, she had saved Russell. And Russell's like, well, I think I saved you. And Parvati's like, okay, well, we saved each other. And Russell's like, I saved you 100% of the time. And he seems to be very annoyed with Parvati. And Parvati doesn't back down because she doesn't want to show weakness. But it's also like, you're trying not to get voted out here, Parvati. That's not great. You should be sucking up to his ego at this point to just give yourself a better chance of surviving. But more importantly, she votes out Jerry instead of Sandra. She couldn't win the game anyway at this point, but she just lowered her odds.
Because Sandra was more well-liked than Jerry.
Yes.
Which can make enough sense. I had the worst as Russell because he's still just a complete jackwagon. He wasn't going home regardless of winning immunity or not. And yeah, he had power. And imagine that he misused it again. So anytime I can give him a worse player, normally, top 4, we give out NAs so often. No, Russell's here. He gets a worse. He's a jackwagon.
Okay, so final Tribal Council. Before we get there, though, arguably the greatest moment in a pre-Tribal Council, final Tribal Council moment ever. Sandra takes Russell's hat and throws it in the fire. The revenge of Jason is complete.
and this is great just because we've talked about sometimes there can be a little bit of gameplay, even after all the votes and everything else is going on before final Tribal Council, maybe to get into people's heads and do all this stuff. This could be seen as getting into Russell's head and throwing him off his game for final Tribal, but that's not what she's thinking.
No,
she was just wanting to mess with him.
It's just spite.
You mean on his head? You said get in his head,
yes,
or get it off his head.
And credit where credit's due. Russell does acknowledge just at the reunion show. He's like, that was a good move. Like, she was trying to get, that could have got in my head. And
She threw me
frazzled
off my game.
That's a good move. Respect that. And, I'm glad Russell acknowledged that. But yeah, that was not Sandra's intention.
They say it's like the horseshoe effect or whatever, but we'll just call it full circle. So the fact that Russell's game in season 19, at the beginning of Survivor 301, starts with him burning a sock to sow chaos, ends with his fedora getting burned before the final tribal council of heroes versus villains. There's something poetic, and especially knowing that Sandra just did it for no reason. There's something else at work here. The Survivor gods are intervening and saying, Russell, you deserve this.
So we stayed in Samoa this entire time,
Yep.
right? Was this on the same beach?
I don't know if it was on the same beach.
Because that'd be hilarious
That would
if
be.
it was like on the same beach, same place, same like kind of location of the fire.
Final Tribal Council time, opening statements. Sandra said she had to do everything on her own because her alliance got wiped out early on, and then the heroes wouldn't listen to her, so she was on her own the whole time. Russell says he played hard and apologized if he offended anybody. Okay, yeah, that's like the right thing to say, but he doesn't follow up on that at all.
It's so weird. This entire, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit, and I don't know which questions that you want to talk about, Ryan, because this is definitely one of the things you take your notes on. We say, don't apologize for your game, don't back down, stand firm, and try and make amends and apologize, if you hurt feelings, but you did what you did to get further in the game. This is something that I still champion. These 2 seasons have forced me to add an asterisk that if you're going to be this draconian Machiavellian jackwagon the entire game, I mean, you're just not gonna win. Yep. First of all, so like, it
doesn't matter how much you apologize.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. So like, maybe, just maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, he should just be on full apology tour this entire time. He should stand off his game. Maybe that would be better for someone who played like Russell to get to the end and be like, I know what I did was wrong. And honestly, at the time, it was just me getting caught up in the game, feeling like I needed to make these big moves. I needed to prove myself. I needed to show it to all of you. That's not who I really am. I am sorry. I am sorry. I'm sorry. This sounds so gross coming out of my mouth. But if you're going to play like that, Russell is now not completely drawn dead, but is basically drawn dead for 2 seasons by taking our final tribal advice and playing his ridiculous game.
Yep. You can't go too far with a bad social game. There's nothing you can do to fix that. The apology, you got to be careful with that because that's kind of what Boston Rob did in All Stars, and it didn't work for him. I don't think there was anything Russell could have done here. The apologies would be like, he can probably blame like, hey, I played back to back. I had 2 weeks off between seasons. I've gone a little nuts. I apologize for some of the things I've said. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I know I did because I caught up in the moment. I am sorry for that. I play hard. I love strategy. That's the part of the game I love. That's what I focused on. And sure, maybe I had flaws at parts. Maybe there was some luck involved for sure. But I just played my hardest because I care so much. Something like that. Like that would have been the way to go.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters at this point. I don't think he had a chance. I think at best maybe he can swing 1 vote and that's it. But yeah, there was like best case scenario he would have ended up like Boston Rob at the end there.
My best advice for Russell is to play better.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he didn't get to see Samoa. So, with that in mind, he played the same game.
I really wish there was a gap season there.
Yep. So, Parvati says she was seen as a huge threat from the get-go and had used Russell as like a pet, kind of like a meat shield, but she calls him a dragon. So, Colby and Coach, they're both extremely critical of Russell. In fact, everybody is. Everyone is just like ripping apart Russell.
Dunkfest.
Dunkfest.
Yeah, we haven't had a Dunkfest this hard since Jean Robert.
But they basically let Parvati make the point that she talked about she had the biggest target on her back coming into the game, probably out of anybody, and she also played the biggest risky move in the game with her double idol play.
True.
Great for Parvati. Amanda wants to know more about Sandra's strategy, and Sandra's like, yeah, my strategy could have been way better because if I had been better, Russell would be gone. But I just kept going to the heroes, and you guys kept telling him what I wanted to do and blowing it up, so I couldn't get Russell out. So yeah, it was kind of like shade thrown at the heroes for screwing up so bad.
And I mean, this is tough because this is where you can look at it in 2 completely different ways depending on how you feel on the player. Because I feel like we've criticized people in the past on that because it's like, okay, well, if you would have been a better player, you would have been able to convince them. So it's really difficult to balance that.
So I think this won the heroes over to her side and maybe pushed some of the villains away from her side because, it didn't work. But Sandra's like, it's your fault it didn't work. Now vote for me. You owe me.
The aspect of Sandra's game that is unfortunately criminally under-edited by the very nature of the game is we don't get to see the little moments in between where she knows those people. I bet that Sandra could tell you the name of all of their kids and spouses and what they do for a living and how long they've done it and all of their hopes and dreams. Sandra does that. And so when she looks at that jury and she says, my strategy could have been better, but you guys didn't want to help me. She's looking at a jury of friends and she's looking at a jury of egos. Some people who were maybe bought into their hype a little too much and who thought that their read on the situation was better, who thought that their game was better. They thought they knew Russell better than she did. And that's their fault. So it's almost like she's kind of just a soft backhand. Like, I tried to help you guys. Help me help you. You didn't. So how about now you help me for trying to help you? I think it works well.
And the heroes acknowledge that. A couple of them do.
Yeah.
JT is very funny. He's like, hey, I screwed up. I made my bed. I can lie in it. Russell, you need to lie in your bed.
Hint, hint, you're
Own up to your
screwed.
mistakes, basically.
I was honestly a little surprised that JT wasn't a little softer on Russell because JT was impressed with the move at the time. He just must have been completely turned off by it down the road.
Or probably more on what just some of the other stuff Russell did.
Sure, I can see it. But I was surprised given the type of game that JT was trying to play. Russell basically played the same game, got further, but JT was at least likable.
Well, because up until like that merge vote, like that was a great move by Russell. Like that wasn't a move that rubbed a bunch of people the wrong way. It was just a great move that you outwitted people. Mm-hmm. It's just everything that happened after that they were able to see from the jury.
Well, and also an important thing to note, the jury, especially the first member of the jury, really sets the tone at Ponderosa. Who is the first member of the jury? Coach. Coach hates Russell. Coach and JT are friends. Courtney is there. Courtney also doesn't like Russell.
Good luck.
Courtney is dating one of JT's very good friends, Stephen Fishback, at this point. So they all know each other. They obviously did that music video together, The Dragons.
Changed my life.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, go look up Dragons Ponderosa video. And I think it's Dragons with a Z at the end.
Yeah, on the dance floor.
It's the greatest Ponderosa video of all time. But anyway, the three of them are friends. So, they're talking about how much they hate Russell. It's probably going to rub off on JT. And he's like, oh, that guy kind of sucks.
Wow, I hate Russell too. I also hate Russell.
When you guys tell me about this, if someone I've never met or met briefly about like how much you hate this person, well, guess what? I start to not like them too.
It's
like, oh man, they made that one really good play to get me out. Respect, but everyone hates you.
Like, Derek, I remember you had this college professor, I can't remember her name, but you just would tell me all these stories. I'm like, wow, she's the worst professor ever, and I've never had her.
Oh, the one with the rubric where a 16 out of 18 is worth the same grade as a 13 out of 18?
Yeah, that one. So, I was just like, I and the funny thing is I did end up having her for a class, but before I had her for a class, I'm like, wow, she sucks. Screw her. Danielle asked Russell, like, hey, would you change anything about your game? And no. Okay, so you're here to apologize for, offending anybody, but you're not going to change anything about your game. Okay, now you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. You can't do both.
Well, and then she even says, like, basically, no one up here is going to vote for you. Are you sure you wouldn't change anything about your game? Now that I gave you that information, and he still stands behind it.
The right answer to this question, Russell, would be, if I could make all the same moves, but get to know you guys a little bit better and leave as friends, that's what I would want.
Same moves, nicer execution, basically, is the right answer. Jerry wants to know how and why the vote was switched to her. And Russell says, he's like, oh, well, you have no enemies on the jury, you'd win. And Parvati and Sandra are like, nope, that's not true. He thinks you're going to vote for him. That's why you got voted out.
He thought you were a slam dunk vote for him.
You got to be careful what you tell people in this game. Keep your cards a little close to your chest.
Yeah, because, Jerry did say she was leaning Russell at first.
Yep. She probably would have.
Russell had the right read. It's just he told Parvati and maybe Sandra too much information.
It's because he needs to brag about his moves.
Yeah, classic Russell. Like, oh, look at me. I found another idol without a clue.
Look at how smart I am.
And I get wanting to show off a little bit. You want to reveal everything and show everyone how much of a genius you are. I get that impulse, believe me. But you got to check your ego at the door.
Let them see that after the game.
Do that in the Secret Survivor Facebook group while you're watching the season together. Don't brag to people on the island.
Talk about it in confessionals. If you want a therapist or someone to brag to, make it the Survivor producers.
Yeah, the photogs.
Photogs. Don't do that to the other players. Candace tells Russell he went too far. And then Parvati, you were kind of like a battered housewife with Russell, and you never got out of the situation. And I can't respect that. Yikes.
Do we even want to have this in the podcast?
This is what she said.
It was meant, It's in the show.
We're not going to say anything more about that, except that this is aged poorly.
And I mean,
maybe don't bring that kind of stuff into the game, Candace.
yeah, you don't know people's personal lives, and I don't think anything was going on at the time.
No.
So it's not like she would have known, but still, don't even risk it.
This is a silly game.
Drawing comparisons like that, the only person to do it worse was Kathy. And that was when she said that Jenna was being a cancer on her tribe.
Comparing things that happen on Survivor, unless it, season 39 is, that's a separate thing. But comparing stuff that happens on Survivor, like conflicts and stuff like that, to domestic assault or cancer, no, leave that out of the game. This is a silly reality show that doesn't matter at all.
Snakes and rats, pilots, passengers. There are so many
Look at
other
those great metaphors.
There's so many other things that we can use without crossing that line.
This is not okay.
So this is advice to jurors if we ever go back to this format or even in the open format. Don't use similes or metaphors like this. Like, they just sound bad and you never know how they're going to age.
Maybe we shouldn't bring Candace back.
Maybe we shouldn't bring Candace. This is a little bit like victim blaming. It's a bad look for Candace.
And it's also a wrong read on the situation.
It's the wrong read on the situation.
Parvati's in control here.
You don't know Parvati's whole situation, and it aged like milk.
Yep.
So, yeah, not great. Finally, we have Rupert. I really like this. He's like, Russell, it's hard to be honest in this game. It's very easy to lie. You took the easy path. Like, ooh, this is like something Yoda would say.
Like, we've talked about, like, we don't really care about, like, the honorable game or anything like that, but you just like it come from Rupert, especially now.
And I'm not going to lie, the way that Rupert phrased it, it was almost like we all understand that there's some deception in this game, but what you do somehow in a game where that is needed is too much. And, like, I know he said, like, honesty is hard, but I still got the sense that he was just like, this is Survivor, and somehow you have, like, surpassed that in the wrongest of ways. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. He thanks Sandra for trying to open the door for the heroes and, like, apologizes for not going through the door, slamming it in her face. He criticizes Parvati for aligning with Russell, and that's when she's like, I didn't have a choice. No one else would work with me.
And Parvati also acknowledged, like, I know you guys didn't get to see this, but on the Villains Tribe, it was 3 against 7. Yeah. I had nobody. Russell was a newbie that nobody knew. He was who I had.
Rupert does say, like, but you are worthy of winning because you, like, worked the hardest. So basically his point is, like, Sandra, Parvati, you're both worthy of the vote. Either one of you can win. It's fine.
I would agree.
Sure. Sandra wins 6 votes to 3 to 0. Parvati gets 3. Russell gets none. So Sandra is our first 2-time winner of Survivor. So, guys, who would you have voted for? I know, we used to say who deserves to win, but, the jury decided Sandra deserves to win. The right person won, but we can vote different from the jury. Based on what we saw in the edit, who would you guys have voted for?
I think that's a beautiful way to phrase it, and I'm glad that we did it for exactly this reason. The vote, the way it's split up, if you were on the Villains Tribe and you weren't Courtney, who was super tight with Sandra, you voted for Parvati because you saw what she had to deal with. You were there. You tried to get her out, and you couldn't. So if I start on the Villains Tribe, I'm voting for Parvati. And if I started on the Heroes Tribe, based on what I saw then, probably voting for Sandra. I can't help but draw the comparison. This Final 3 is almost exactly the same Final 3 as Season 19. You have Russell, you have the person who was perceived as, like, who Russell was trying to make as, like, you rode my coattails the whole time, and then you have another person from that starting tribe. With the key difference being, Sandra actually was trying to work to help everyone on the other tribe do something, and that didn't happen. So it's the same thing all over again. And just like on the last one, I would have voted for, Russell based on what we saw. If I had started on that tribe and been with him the whole time, I bet I would have voted for Natalie. Maybe Mick if Mick had tried to, work with me more closely. But this season right now depends on where you drop me. From a viewer's perspective, then I'd have voted for Parvati. She played the more impressive game.
Yeah, when I was watching this a couple of years ago, going into the finale, along with going into Final Tribal, I thought that Parvati was going to win. I expected it to be extremely close. I'm not trying to make it sound like it was like slam dunk knockout Parvati, but I figured that, this probably should be Parvati given what I've seen throughout this entire season. That didn't end up being the case, but it seemed like it was a lot more the social aspect that I don't think we really saw a whole lot of. And because of that, I would have given my vote to Parvati.
Sure. I agree with you guys. I think physically and strategically, I think it's Parvati. And then socially, I would probably say Sandra is probably stronger than Parvati. Though that's debatable on the show. I think in real life, based on everything, based on having seen every season of Survivor, I think Sandra wins this one.
And I almost want to say, based on the edit, at least Sandra was going and working with the heroes. So if you look at that jury composition, we did get to see her trying to work with them. So like point Sandra definitely for social game in the edit. We just don't know to what extent.
And it's almost like, so she wins the social game, Parvati wins the physical game, and the strategic game, like, it's just two different types of strategies. Sure. So it's all how you perceive that as an individual.
Yes.
And the way that I perceived it, I would have sided a little bit more with Parvati, but I can see how anyone would side with Sandra.
And then Derek does bring up the good point. You know, Parvati was dropped in one of the hardest starting positions, and the heroes didn't get to see it. That's just the nature of Survivor. That, you know, the pre-merge, you can't win in the pre-merge. You can only lose in the pre-merge. So while Parvati played amazing in the pre-merge, you know, we saw early on that she did isolate herself from the heroes quite a bit. And I think that is what took her down.
And that's where, like, retrospectively, that first moment on the beach where maybe she wasn't trying to make nice, like, you know, hey, JT, I know that you've been gunning for me. I get the sense that you think I'm running a women's alliance, maybe joking about it a little bit, trying to get to know people. You know, those are the little things that add up.
So based on the edit, I would have voted for Parvati. I suspect that had I been in the game, I probably could have ended up voting for Sandra. I think that's extremely likely. But the question is, who would we have voted for based on the edit? And I think my answer is Parvati. So Russell, Parvati, and Sandra are all going to play again, all three. Do we want to see it?
I'm not gonna lie. Parvati, yes. Bring Parvati back as many times as you want. Sandra, she's a 2-time winner now. The only one with that much hardware. Bring Sandra back as much as you want. Russell, I am absolutely 100% done with. Not at the conclusion of Final Tribal Council, but about 5 minutes into the reunion show, when I found out that he has learned absolutely nothing and it's the game of Survivor that is wrong and not him. I never want him to touch the game of Survivor again. Like, say what you want about Johnny Fairplay, at least he had some respect for the game. Russell has no respect for anybody except himself, and by doing so has very little self-respect. And I don't want to see it anymore. I'm done.
Absolutely to Sandra. Even though I almost want to not see her back, just because it's like, don't want to tarnish the reputation, because she's 2 for 2. So it's like, oh man, just for your legacy, like, should you just stick to that? Maybe, but I want to see if you can try to do it again. Parvati, absolutely. She's made it this far how many times? It's incredible. Russell, yes, with an asterisk that I would want it to be at least 3 years down the line. I want to see if he changes his viewpoint as a person and how the game of Survivor works, and if he can stew on it a little bit. So give it a while, and then I would be interested to see how he would play if he came back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see him back anytime soon, because I don't think that he would really learn a whole lot.
So I'm pretty much the same page as you guys, with the one caveat being, after watching Heroes vs. Villains the first time, I didn't like All Stars. I didn't like Heroes vs. Villains. I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to see another like returnee season, because I didn't like either of these. So at this point, I'm like, no, I don't want anybody to come back ever. But like, since then, you know, I have liked Cambodia. I did like Winners at War. Didn't like Game Changers. So I like 2 out of the 3 All-Star seasons, or 2 out of the 5 All-Star seasons. So if we're going to bring back people, which we're going to get into a phase of Survivor, we're going to bring back a lot of people pretty soon. Yes, if you win, I think you have like a free pass to come back whenever. Cool. Let's just because it's interesting. So, I'm not a big fan of Sandra or Parvati as personalities on my screen, especially after Heroes vs. Villains. I like Sandra well enough in Pearl Islands, but I don't really care for her in Heroes vs. Villains. Parvati, I've never been very high on. Like, I have respect for her game. I think she's kind of annoying. So, yeah, but they're winners. Bring them back. Russell, I agree with you, Josh, except let's wait 10 years. Like, a really long time.
How about 5 years, 10 seasons?
You know...
Actually, well, 10 years would be about now. So, like, let's say that Heroes vs. Villains, what would that have been, 2010? Like, now, in 2022, like... This seems like an appropriate time, maybe not so much, but
here's my pitch.
He needed to be in the late 30s.
Here's my pitch. In season 34 is going to be called Survivor Game Changers. I think that's the perfect spot to drop Russell, because he's a game changer. He is.
That's true.
Actually, yeah, I think that is an ideal next one for him to be in.
If you're going to have a themed season literally called Game Changers, it's a travesty that Russell's not there, and I can admit that.
He burned bridges with production.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I can't imagine him running.
He will never be on American Survivor again. He'll never be on American Survivor. Never. But he will play one more time after 20. But nowadays, cut to where we are now, never again. Reunion show. Russell's drunk. Russell's annoying. Russell thinks America should get a vote on who should win. And to make it even worse, Russell wins the fan favorite.
Just egging it on.
You know, he does not try to buy the title of sole survivor this time.
It's true.
So, I mean, do you want to call that progress? I don't know.
I wish they would have rigged this vote so that he wouldn't have won. But
That'd
I
be
mean,
nice.
like, there's probably legal contracts that prevent you from doing
And
that.
everybody was mostly still fine with Russell until the reunion show.
Yeah.
I wasn't, for the record. So who had Sandra or Josh? Josh, your winner pick wins. Congrats.
Yep.
Yeah, on the third try.
Hey, man.
Still counts.
Jeff is going to suggest a Boston Rob versus Russell season because they like challenge each other. Rob's like, I'll gladly kick your ass all over the island. So that's an idea.
I don't think Jeff proposes that. I think Rob says it. Like, he
Well-
says, I'll take you on whenever you want.
Well, Jeff says, hey, maybe
Oh,
that
and then after.
maybe that could be a future season.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Josh knows. Derek can suspect, I think.
I have suspicions.
All right, let's wrap up this season. Pretty pleasing, thank you. Let's get into best player of the season and best and worst. And just a reminder, we can only give these awards to people who made the merge. So the top 10, who is the best and worst? Derek, you want to start?
Yeah, for my best, I had Parvati. If I'm looking at just the post-merge, I love the mercenary game that Sandra played. And if I'm exclusively looking at the post-merge, I would have to really take a long look to decide, is it Parvati or is it Sandra? I might give edge Sandra at that point. But if I'm looking at the game as a whole, given where she was dropped, target on her back, starting tribe, being down in the number 7-3, Parvati's game is incredible. It is such a shame that she was not able to win. And I get why. And I'm not saying that Sandra was the wrong winner. Absolutely not. But I think it's Parvati, and I actually am not sure that it's close.
So here's what I'll say. I think I'll give it to Sandra, but it's like as close as it can get. I will give Parvati this credit. I think this is her best game. I think she played her best game here. This is a stronger game than Micronesia.
I was going to say, I based on what I see, Parvati should have won. But I also think Amanda should have won. So,
So Sandra or Parvati, I think you could say either one. I'll probably give edge to Sandra just with the knowledge I have.
I think Derek mentioned something that's important is that, like, I'm looking at the entire season here, not just the post-merge.
Sure.
Even though just the post-merge people are eligible, it applies to the entire game, and I think that Parvati's shown the most throughout the entire game, whereas Sandra, it didn't really seem like she emerged until later on. And for the three facets of the game, I think that Parvati wins 2 out of those 3 against Sandra. So I'm going to give it to Parvati here. But like you said, like it's neck and neck.
Yeah, a game of inches here. One of the closest ones we've ever had, I would say. Probably best in terms of like how close they are. Probably best one since like Yul Nazi.
I agree with that.
Worst player of the season.
So I'm going to give 2 dishonorable mentions. I've got a dishonorable mention to Colby because he really didn't play. And it got to the point where I say this about other types of players, not about Colby. I can't grade your game anymore. It got to the point in the post-merge where I could no longer grade Colby's game. That being said, I still think that he had a pretty decent chance to win if he made it to the end. I gave a dishonorable mention to Candace for being utterly useless and for mutinying a second time, even though that went so well for her the first time. And she would have had the numbers and had a free walk to the top 5 if she had just not done this. But it's Russell. It's Russell. Like, yeah, he made it to the end. But on this podcast, we are about winning Survivor. We're not about getting to the end. That's why I don't think that Eric Reichenbach giving up immunity was a bad move. Because he had no way of winning, drop me in that spot, unless he does something crazy. He needed to do something crazy. He lost. He was going for the win, swinging for the fences, swing away. He did it. Russell is just a tornado. He doesn't care about the damage. He doesn't care about optics. He doesn't care about making friends. He doesn't care about anything. He just wants to make it to the end. And you know what? He's really good at that. But I think now with 2 straight seasons, one of all newbies, one of all returners, we have now seen twice that this is probably the worst game that you can play if you want to win.
I think he swayed me. I was originally going to give it to Candace, mostly out of spite.
She deserves a dishonorable mention, and on most seasons, she'd probably get it.
I think Russell's probably strategically better than Candace. He's physically probably better than Candace. But, yeah, it's a little tough because, again, he didn't see Samoa. So, it's that's part of the reason I kind of a little bit of slack. But F it, I don't care that much about this season.
We can cut him slack, but
Yeah.
if just because you don't know you're playing the worst game that you could possibly play doesn't mean you're not playing the worst game that you could possibly play.
I think Candace is the worst move of this season. But yeah, why not? Dishonorable mention to Colby for not finishing his homework. Dishonorable mention to Candace because she sucks. Sure, Russell's worst player of the season. Fine.
I'm also going to give it to Russell just because of how insane it is. And mostly, the crazy thing is that he played essentially the exact same game as 19. I think we all gave him the best player of the season in 19. It is strictly based on what we're shown.
Edit can do wonders or not wonders.
And we all, even though we said based on edit, we have to give it to Russell, we all said asterisk. There's obviously a lot we're not seeing. We got to see that this time. And thank you, Survivor Edit, for letting more than 3 people get edits this time. So
everybody got an edit this time.
So we're unanimous on Russell in back-to-back seasons, just for the exact opposite reward.
Yes. And I think now we can look back on Samoa and be like,
But
a little sus.
We're not going to change it, are
we? We can't change it. You know, we have suspicions. Less knowledge, suspicions.
Just remember, go back, show season 19 to someone who's never seen Survivor before. Have them get to the end and tell you who the winner should be. It's going to be Russell 99 out of 100 times based on that horrible edit. What are we to do?
Jeff Watch, anything you want to add?
No, not really. This season, Jeff was such a background character to all of the big egos going on. Jeff was kind of a non-factor for me this post-merge, this season.
As he should be.
Agreed. A host should arbitrate the game, move it forward, not interfere with a bunch of ridiculous nonsense.
Weather report?
There's really nothing to report on in this second portion of Samoa. We're out of the rainy season. Might have been a little bit at the beginning of the season, but weather did not play any factor in the post-merge at all that we saw.
It's so funny because it's the same location as last time, but it just, and that was the biggest factor ever, and this time it just wasn't.
Well, I mean, the same thing happened in Panama, right? Yep. Where Panama, the one season there was nothing, and
Pearl Islands, and then All Stars, yeah.
And then All Stars was good, and
All Stars was bad.
All Stars was the miserable one, but it was because it was the rainy season in Panama.
Yep. Very funny. Josh, you are a memorability consultant.
Yes, I am.
So you get to choose what is the most memorable moment of the season. For the pre-merge, you selected the opening challenge, I believe, right?
Correct.
Excellent challenge. What is your most memorable moment of the post-merge, and is it better than the opening challenge?
So the only nominee that I had written down was the moment that Parvati played the 2 idols. Were there any other nominees from the post-merge that you guys can think of?
Rupert's rock in his pocket.
Probably the second best, yeah. But I think that's the Parvati double idol play is probably the best one.
I think
Sandra burning Russell's hat.
That was pretty nominal. Yeah. I'm going to go with Parvati's 2 idols for the post-merge, but it ain't beating the first challenge. Sure. So the most memorable moment of Heroes vs. Villains is that very first challenge. It's epic.
In my opinion, we peaked immediately.
That is your own opinion as far as moments. Correct.
So this is what I've been looking forward to most since we decided to talk about Heroes versus Villains. It is the season rankings. I've been very, very curious to see where you guys end up on this one. I obviously know where I ended up. I did this last week. I'll go first just to set the stage. So here is my ranking. It's from best to worst, but 20 seasons in. Palau, Pearl Islands, Tocantins, Vanuatu, Micronesia, China, Borneo, Amazon, Fiji, Guatemala, Panama, Samoa, Africa, Australian Outback, Gabon, Marquesas, and coming in 17th place, Heroes versus Villains. And then it goes Cook Islands, All Stars, Thailand. And I struggled so hard with this one in Cook Islands. Oh, man. And I eventually, I think Heroes, I liked the winner of Cook Islands more, but I think Heroes versus Villains had a few more iconic moments than Cook Islands. So that's what broke that tie for me. But yeah, it is in that, Thailand is and All Stars are kind of in the bottom. Thailand's in its own tier way at the bottom. Then All Stars is kind of in its own tier. And then I would put Cook Islands and Heroes versus Villains in the third bottom tier.
Send Ryan your hate mail.
Go for it,
please. Send us DMs telling us how wrong Ryan is.
That's fine. I'll die on this hill.
So top to bottom, mine are in first place, China, then Pearl Islands, Micronesia, fans versus favorites, and then in fourth place, Heroes versus Villains. And then after that, I'm going to go with Tocantins, Palau, Amazon, Vanuatu, Borneo, Australia, Guatemala, Fiji, Panama, Africa, Samoa, Cook Islands, Gabon, Marquesas, All-Stars, and Thailand.
And my number 1 is not changing. It is still Season 16, Micronesia fans versus favorites, followed by China, Palau, also coming in at number 4, Heroes versus Villains. On this podcast, we were very critical of Russell's game. But recall, I said it was a very entertaining train wreck, and I loved most of it. This is all top-tier Survivor, in my opinion, along with Tocantins coming in at number 5 and Pearl Islands coming in at number 6. All those are just top-tier Survivor for me. Now we're kind of in the next tier, which is Amazon, Vanuatu, Guatemala, Australia, Fiji, Panama, Exile Island, Borneo, Gabon, Africa, Cook Islands, Samoa, All-Stars, Marquesas, and Thailand.
Yeah, I'm one of the rare people, one of the only people who says Samoa is a better season than Heroes versus Villains. But I find it extremely funny that you two have it as your fourth favorite, and I have it as my fourth least favorite. Opposites.
I think the casting was almost perfect for Heroes versus Villains. So you come in with that theme, they play into it without like really strictly adhering to it. You know, you had heroes doing dastardly things and you had villains on the redemption arc. You got a little bit of everything sprinkled all in, and then it ends with Russell absolutely getting dead dogged at Final Tribal Council. It's beautiful. Him saying whole season, Sandra's trash, can't win. She mops up.
I was fully entertained the entire season when I first watched this, and it was tough. I was very close to putting this above fans versus favorites, but I just couldn't do it.
I think what I've realized is I don't like when Survivor gets personal. Like, I don't like personal attacks. That's where I'm like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I have the same thing with The Amazing Race. There could be, like, conflict, which is fine, but I just don't like it when it gets personal. I'm just like, I don't want to watch that. Game Changers, All-Stars, Heroes versus Villains, what do those three have in common? Personal conflict, I think, goes too far, and that, I lose interest. Cambodia, Winners at War? Nope, not really. So, that's what, when personal conflict goes too far in Survivor, that's when I don't like it. I think we have that, my bottom four seasons all have that. Thailand, All-Stars, Cook Islands, Heroes versus Villains. So, just doesn't do much for me. I'm just like, I'd rather watch it as something else.
Well, over time, we will end up averaging out these scores to see where the official Castaway Consultants ranking
Yeah, I'm excited
is.
for that, to get to that one day.
Heroes versus Villains, right in the middle.
I mean, if we really want to, we could figure that out, but that's for another day.
It's another day. So, in terms of where we are production-wise, Survivor 42 starts next week, so we're going to be stepping away from the Rewind series for a while. When you're listening to this, it'll be post-season 42, so you'll be getting Survivor Nicaragua next, season 21, which Derek knows probably almost nothing about.
I know almost nothing about it. I want to give a disclaimer to the audience at this point that I'll probably be able to surmise the winner just based on name recognition. Coming into the era where I was friends with Ryan and on Twitter and, not spoiler averse for the longest time. So I know a lot of winners, but again, I don't know how we get there. And I think there might be one winner that I don't know or that I'm not recalling right now. So I know nothing about Nicaragua. I'm excited to watch it.
You have never seen anyone from the season play.
Beautiful. I'd love to hear it.
So, yeah. It's a season of Survivor, that's for sure.
That it is.
I'm not going to say much more about it, because
Don't want to cloud your judgment.
I don't want to cloud anybody's judgment.
Exactly.
It's a polarizing season, I'll say that. Some people love it, some people don't. Deal with that information what you will. That'll be next time, I guess, in terms of what you will be hearing next. Yeah, the next podcast the audience, will be hearing is the Nicaragua pre-merge. But for us, we will not be recording that until after 42 is aired. So it's a nice little break from the Rewind series as we get ready for 42. Anything else, guys?
I got nothing. Just thank you, fans, for being awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks for getting to the end of this podcast.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod. Give us 5-star reviews. Please don't hold my opinions on Heroes versus Villain against me too hard and tank reviews or anything like that.
They always make fun of me for my dog water opinions.
Sure.
Ryan's got a bona fide dog water opinion here today.
That's fine. And I know everyone on the planet, sans my dad, disagrees with me. That's fine. I will forever. It's not really a fond memory, but looking back, it is a little bit fond. It's like a bonding moment with my dad. We're just so pissed off about the finale and just how stupid it was. And then we get to the reunion show and Jeff's everyone on the streets tell me this is the best season ever. My dad and I just spoke what? What are you talking about? This season sucked. And then, no, it turns out everyone agreed with Jeff and we're just oh, okay, I guess. Fine. So I fondly think about that and being wow, this is what a weird disconnect. But yeah, please don't hold that against me too much. It's my hot Survivor take. We're all allowed to have one. Just one, though.
I only one.
Feels like a personal attack somehow.
No, never.
Mine is that 39 is my favorite season. Oh. Just kidding.
Edge of Extinction. We're going to be the worst season of all time. Iron of the Idols. Hold my beer. Anything else, guys?
Got nothing.
All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.